Oh my goodness. Hello everyone. And it is finally here. The 2026 NFL Draft. This Thursday. This has been a year in the making. And before we get started, we got to say, hey, this has been a blessing, long time coming. We spent a lot of time trying to get this show on the road for you. But my name is Big Law Lawrence Johnson, and I'm your host for tonight with the founder and creator of the NFL Draft Bible and All Access Football, my man Rick Serritella in the building. How you doing, boss man?
Oh, Big Law, I'm all revved up, ready to go. I see Cam Hayward getting the crowd here ready. Terry Bradshaw is out there with the terrible towels. There's a lot of fans out there in Pittsburgh. I know our guy Bo Marchant is on location, and he's going to keep us posted on the scenery down there. But, this is history in the making. It's going to be a topsy-turvy first round. A lot of smoke in the air, right? And we're trying to see through the fog. And sometimes it's just better to enter this with some blinders on because you hear so much smoke, so much noise. Jordan Tyson, a name that's hot to trot. New Orleans Saints, a team that want to move up. Cowboys obviously looking to get a pass rusher, and pass rusher looks to be a theme. And we'll see how these edge rushers come off the board. But what an exciting night. 365-day build-up. Shout out to all the chat room people. I see some of the Draft Bible Familia in the building. Jarrett Regal, Dom Ambrose. Shout out to all the staff. Lauren Davidoff, William Donahue. We got our good friend Adams Exploits in the building. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm so excited to talk about the first round selection. We'll see how long the Raiders take before they announce this selection. And before we get into it, I know we got people that are just anticipating this draft show, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. And we're just trying to give you an alternate perspective. We do have a lot of good analysts coming on. Howard Balzer will check in after the 10th selection. He'll join us for a while and hang for some picks. He'll recap the top 10. Tell us what he saw, recap some trades. He's always got the details on the trade exchange. We got Brian Baldinger join us about halfway through the first round. And then, of course, my co-host, Russ Landy from the Draft Watch Show, will be joining us to drive us home. And we'll be live all 3 days. Unbelievable. Buckle up. Now, Big Law, before we get started, it will take your child to work day at school. So I made sure to tell Oceana that I would take her to work. Oceana, you over here? All right, come on over. I told her that I would take her to work today. So come on over and say hello to the people. Make your way under the wires. We got lighting in the building. Come say hello and get the show started. Let's get this party on the road.
Hello.
What do you want to tell the people?
Buckle up on your seatbelt and watch the radio about him and that guy right there.
Big Law.
Big Law. Talk about football, and it could be on Mars, Jupiter, Earth.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now go to bed.
That's right. That's right.
It's past your bedtime. So now when you go to class tomorrow and your teacher asks you what you did, you say, I went on Daddy's show. So there you go. Take your child to work day. It's a family affair at the NFL Draft Bible Familia. And for the next 4 hours or so, Big Law, it's nothing but hardcore draft talk, baby. Let's do this.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it, big brother. So everybody, make sure all our folks in the chat looks like are up to about $1.50. Put your questions in the chat because Rick and I will respond and give you some commentary on some of the questions you have. And that's what makes it really beautiful is this is interactive. It's not just we're going to feed you whatever you see on the TV and that's about it. No, you can feed us information and we'll come back to you and give you some feedback. But Rick was talking about the fog. To get through the fog, you need the lamp. And this is the lamp. This is the 2026 NFL Draft Bible. Make sure you go online, All Access Football, and order the latest version of the 2026 NFL Draft Bible. You notice how you look inside here, it may not be as pretty as some of those other books you may see in magazines, but the Bible wasn't pretty, was it? The Bible wasn't pretty. The Bible was the truth. And this is the truth, right? Not all the pictures, but this, when you read some of the verbiage and the literature in here, it'll give you the truth. So make sure you go to All Access Football and order your NFL Draft Bible 2026 guide right now.
Well done, Big Law. I love it. Outstanding.
Hell yeah, man.
It is your guiding light. It's your guiding shining light through the fog of the NFL Draft.
That's right, baby. This light's the lamp, baby. You're trying to get you that fog. Just hold it up. It'll give you that light, baby. Let's go.
All right. Looks like we might have a pick alert.
We got a pick alert. Yep. Pick is in for the Raiders. We got a comment here. What do we got? We got somebody in the comments. So the Raiders are on the clock. And, of course, you know, it's not a secret. We're looking at comparisons. And one thing about this is, you know, how the NFL actually owns ESPN actually owns the NFL network now. So you may see some crossover. You may hear some crossover. So don't get confused by some of the things that they speak about. But, you know, I mean, Rick, let's talk about the worst kept secret, the first round pick. And we could just start talking about it now. The showing his family on TV. What did you think about this young quarterback coming out of Indiana, historical season, undefeated? I never thought I'd see it. You know what I mean? What did you think about this young man when you when you saw him play? And what do you think about his future going into this NFL?
Well, I can't wait to talk about it. I see Roger Goodell stepping up to the podium. So let's announce the selection, Big Law.
All right, let's go. There it is. And there it is. I can tell you the kid is a wholesome Boy Scout. From everything that I've seen, he's about as wholesome as a draft pick, as a Boy Scout that I've ever seen. He says the right thing. He says it with a smile on his face. And congratulations to him and his family. Number one pick of the Raiders. Another thing about it, I think they did a good thing by having him sit down for a little bit. He's going to sit the bench. They just picked up Kirk Cousins and gave Kirk Cousins a nice chunk of money as well. But
I don't know about that. We'll see. You know, Fernando Mendoza just announced as the first pick of the draft. And I'll tell you what, Kirk Cousins came out and I saw him make a few comments saying, hey, I signed with the team and I told Clint Kubiak that, hey, if I'm not the best quarterback, I don't deserve to start. And so to me, that tells me that Fernando Mendoza, if he comes in, he shows that he's ready and he can start from day one. I think Kirk Cousins is there as a mentor, as an insurance policy. And quite frankly, I think it should be baptism by fire in Sin City. He should just get as much experience as he can. The Raiders are not going to be competing for a playoff spot. So why not just work through the kinks? Ironically enough, they had Peyton Manning try to convince this young man to come out to Pittsburgh and attend the draft. He chose to stay home. But I remember Peyton Manning's first year, and the Colts were terrible. They stunk. And I think he led the league in interceptions. But look how much better he was for it. I think Fernando Mendoza is in that same situation.
Yeah, I think that they flew a correspondent out to his house. So that's her job for the day. She's interviewing him right now. How about that? That's your only interview for the day. But I think, if the Raiders, they signed a ton of free agents, this offseason. And by signing a ton, I feel like they're in a win now mode. They put a lot of money out there, man. You know, when you spend a lot of money, it's not like you're rebuilding. It seems to me like they want to win now.
Well, it's hard to win now with a rookie quarterback, and we'll talk about some of Mendoza's strengths and weaknesses. But I think to your point, Big Law, they basically spent the entire offseason structuring their team around Fernando Mendoza. They brought in an offensive mastermind and the new head coach, Clint Kubiak. Mm-hmm. Then they hired the quarterback whisperer, Mike Sullivan, right, as the quarterback coach. You mentioned Kirk Cousins. He's there to teach. He's there to lead by example. He's there to answer those questions on the sideline when he throws a boneheaded interception. Okay. Of course, now you got Tom Brady upstairs. So, by the way, we'll bring in an all-pro center in Tyler Lindenbaum. We'll overpay him, but because we're going to establish that infrastructure, it's set up for him to succeed. Now, I will say this. They need protection. Their offensive line needs a lot of work. And I mean, you look at the weapons. They got rid of Jacoby Myers. I mean, they're throwing to guys like Jack Besh, Dante Thornton. I mean, Trey Thornton. Trey Tucker. I mean, there's not a lot of ammunition here to put massive points on the board. If
Right.
you know what I mean.
Right. I mean, if they're gonna, I just kind of find it hard to pay a backup $35 million a year. I love that job, to hold a clipboard and be a teacher. So it'll be great to see what they do as far as their the competition in the summer coming up here for this new coming up season. The Jets pick is in. So
wow. Let me talk about Mendoza, because I think if I were to comp him to somebody, I would say he's going to be a Joe Flacco type of quarterback. And what I mean by that is more of a traditional pocket passer. I love him to death for that quarterback rush up the middle that he had in the national championship. He's a gutsy quarterback. He can absorb a hit, no doubt about it. He's tough as nails. Now, I do worry about his peripheral vision, especially against the rush. I don't know how that's going to transition to the next level. And he had enough mobility in college to move around and extend plays. But just like Ben Roethlisberger at Miami, Ohio, he was a mobile quarterback in the MAC, winging it around on the run. That didn't really play to his strengths in the NFL. I think as Mendoza gets older, as he gets slower, he's going to be more of a traditional drop back passer, and that's okay. That wins in the NFL. Now, he's very smart. He's very cerebral, but there's a lot of work to be done in terms of they ran a hurry-up offense. They did not huddle. He never lined up under center, right? So you gotta learn how to command a huddle, be a leader of men, work on your footwork from a drop back. These are all things that can be coached up. We got to pick. Oh, baby.
We got to pick in. You got to pick. David Bailey goes. Here we go. Fire off the edge. Aaron Glenn wants it right now. He wants fire right now, right off the edge. David Bailey from Texas Tech goes to the New York Jets. All you Jets fans out there, you guys tell me how you feel about this pick. You got to be happy with this pick. I think, if anybody who has had the production, and the measurables came out proper as well, I think David Bailey was one of those guys, man. I think he's going to be a hell on skates. Aaron Glenn has somebody he can build that defense around. Give me an idea. Tell me what you think.
Well, I understand the selection. He's probably the quote-unquote best pure pass rusher. That's an argument for another discussion. But when I look at David Bailey, I see a motor that runs hot and cold, not too stout against the run, more of a pass rush specialist. And that's what the Jets want to do. But when I look at who's available and you're picking number 2 in the draft, David Bailey does not come to mind in terms of being a top 5 overall talent in this year's draft. Nor do I believe he's a blue chip talent. So I think I don't like the selection. I would have much rather saw an Arvell Reese. You heard Aaron Glenn talk about they want to be a more flexible hybrid type of defensive scheme. That speaks exactly to what Arvell Reese brings to the table. Not only that, he's one of the youngest prospects. The upside there is through the roof. Whereas David Bailey, we've kind of seen him plateau over the last few seasons between his past couple of years at Stanford and then into Texas Tech. So I understand the logic and the thought process, but the Jets are going to jet. And I thought there was much better players on the, Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are my top 2 players in the draft. I thought those would have been much better talents. But look, I get it. There's a lot of heat around David Bailey. A lot of talk about teams wanting to trade up. Maybe that put a little extra pressure on the Jets to make this selection. But they need to do what makes sense for their organization. Unfortunately, I just don't see the vision here.
Okay, all right. You said the Jets are gonna jet. So, what does special ed say? I shot him with my shotty and I jetted in my jet. Remember that back in the day, a special ed song. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. I think Arvell Reese may have been a better selection, a little bit more versatility as well. But Aaron Glenn just wants fire. Had Aiden Hutchinson where he came from with Detroit, and that's, I guess, a a definite something, a positive that you're going to get every snap of the ball. So hopefully he doesn't run cold for them, but you think they drafted high, and he's talking right now. I think he's I mean, I look at him and his numbers do translate to me, but this is the NFL. He'll be going against a lot of professional tackles, and did you have a lot of professional tackles in the Big 12?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I mean, he was playing with arguably the best defensive line. So it was like pick your poison. Lee Hunter took up 2-3 bodies, multiple bodies on each and every snap. You had Romello Height on the opposite end. So David Bailey was able to take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities like he should. But, he had 14 games in 2025, 52 tackles, 19 and a half tackles for loss, 14 and a half sacks. To your point, a lot of production, 3 forced fumbles, creating turnovers, a fumble recovery, 3 pass deflections, and 42 career tackles for loss with 29 career sacks. A lot of that in the old Pac-12, but 10 career forced fumbles. So to me, he's not just getting to the quarterback, he's creating turnovers, and you want to see that from your pass rusher. Now, listen, I'm not knocking David Bailey and saying he's not going to be a productive player. I think he can be a double-digit type sack, maybe a little bit less, 8,
right.
9, but at the end of the day, you're getting a productive football player. I just felt like there was better quality, blue chip caliber type of talent. I don't view David Bailey as a cornerstone talent, but I do view him as a very strong foundational piece.
Well, the Arizona Cardinals are taking their time. They're at about 1:12 left right now, and the pick is in, so they made the pick. I was thinking if there was going to be a trade, this was one of the areas. So they say the pick is in, and they got to walk David Bailey back. Of course, he's having a good time with the fans of the Jets, but the Arizona Cardinals put the pick in. Shout out to our guy Adams Exploits. Is that Exploits? He's saying that in some of the mocks he has the Eagles trading up with Cleveland. He says, I don't see it. Howie may trade up a few spots. Not that high. I can't put anything against the Eagles. They have had a masterclass of how to maneuver for the trade, with trades, and also throughout the draft, throughout the year, acquiring talent, getting over on other teams. I mean, they have done a great job of acquiring talent and being one of those teams that continues to reload. And not necessarily have a loss of talent and still are one of the best teams or competitive teams in the division.
Yeah, it's just such a far jump from 23. What is it? 23 to get up to number 6. I mean, I just don't see Howie Roseman giving up the draft equity needed to get up that high. You're probably sacrificing the 23rd and potentially maybe your first round next year. And I don't think anybody wants to do that considering the quarterback class next year. Even though the Eagles don't need a quarterback, they understand how valuable those picks are.
Right, exactly. And it's not like, here we go. We got Roger Goodell walking to the podium right now.
This is going to be an interesting selection right here.
It really is. This is a lot of things can go crazy right now. Whoa. Wow. They took Jeremiah Love right now off the board. Now, remember, they still have the stud, to me, a running back they had last year. And then
they brought back James Conner, but he had a season-ending injury.
And they just signed
Tyson Algier from Atlanta, former 1,000-yard rusher. Wow. And Howard Balzer, who covers the Cardinals on the beat, will be here to join us after the 10th selection, and he'll tell us more about this and the logic and thought process behind it. But, listen, I understand Jeremiah Love is my number 3 overall player in the draft. They don't have a quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, who went 1-11 as a starter last year, by the way, is looking for a pay raise. And let's be honest, he's a career backup for a reason. Maybe they make a move in the back end of the first round and acquire a Ty Simpson. But as of right now, the formula in Arizona is going to be run the ball left, run the ball right, run the ball up the middle. Cue up the Vince Lombardi video.
Swing pass.
Yeah, I mean, so and
Wow.
listen, Connor, the durability issues have certainly been a concern in recent seasons. Algier is a very competent backup who could step in and start if need be. But now you have Love, who's a 3-down back. He doesn't come off the field. Yeah, he runs, he catches, he blocks. So you really don't have a need for those guys. So now Arizona, here's a team that had all these needs. But listen, they went for their best player available on the board. I'm never going to knock a team for doing that. But, man, they've got so much depth at the running back position and so many other needs. I know there was a market for Jeremiah Love. They could have considered stockpiling some picks here, trading down. But, listen, maybe they felt Jeremiah Love was the best player in the draft, as some teams do believe that, and they couldn't resist.
Hey, brother, I'm with you on that. Adams exploits. He's clean, brother. He's got a cool ass suit on out there. But I think that picking up a running back right now, I mean, unless he winds up being, and some people have compared him to, some of the greats of all time. That's a lot of equity, draft equity to give for a running back. And when was the last time we had a running back go this high?
Saquon Barkley.
Number 2, and that was what, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something crazy.
Yeah, it had to be at least 7 years ago, I would say.
I mean, he's gonna have to be that guy, that kind of guy for this to even to make it make sense for me. You had an opportunity, and you think about it. For me, I think if they would have went with I don't know, they wanted to get the best bang for the buck, and like you said, yes, you want to get the best talent on the board at one time, but was running back really it? They needed a lot, and their offensive line is horrendous. And
I mean, they have they need everything. Basically, they need receivers, they need offensive line, they need a quarterback. I don't know if running back was the most pressing need. The defense wasn't too good, hence why Jonathan Gannon was fired. So, I mean, listen, again, I'm not going to knock a team for drafting the best available player. Although in this situation, the Cardinals, I don't know how much this improves their team.
Right. I feel the same way. Could they have been better with some fire off the edge with Arvo Reese or Sonny Styles?
I would have liked to see them go with probably one of these defensive players. They need to get better on the defense. But again, listen, we'll see how it pans out. If they come back and trade for Ty Simpson back in the first round, maybe they have their backfield of the future with Simpson and Love. We'll see how that pans out. I'm interested now to see where the Titans turn their attention to, because a lot of people felt, I know I had in my mock Jeremiah Love going to the Titans. So now I don't think they thought Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles would both be available to them on the board. And you have the New York Giants picking right behind them, who, quite frankly, the next 2 picks are probably going to be in Ohio. Maybe the next 3 picks, because the Browns could take Cardinal Tate. The next 3 selections could be from the Ohio State University.
And don't keep it. I think there could be an opportunity to trade down for some of these higher end blue chippers. Because what do you have? You have 2-3 blue chippers still left, right?
Caleb Downs to me is certainly one of them. I would put Sonny Styles in that category as well. You want to throw Arvell Reese in there. Those are probably the premier talents still remaining left on the board. Now, there's a lot of late talk about the Giants maybe could possibly consider a Mansour Delane, the top cornerback from the draft, but it looks like the Tennessee Titans are getting set to announce their selection. These next few picks are going to be extremely interesting.
Very interesting.
And the Giants already have 2 picks in the top 10. Could they now look to continue to stockpile picks and drop back again?
That's it. That's what I'm thinking. So the Tennessee Titans are in. Roger Goodell to the podium.
Your feed is ahead of mine, so that's good.
Carnell Tate.
Wow.
Oh, that's the first
Whoa.
real curveball. Well, you know what? You gotta take the you want to get your top quarterback you drafted last year a weapon. How did Carnell Tate going right now?
I did not have that on my bingo card for Carnell Tate.
Wow.
Carnell Tate to be the first Ohio State Buckeye.
Not only that, you think about this, Rick. With Carnell Tate going here, that makes this more of a real defensive draft coming up here for these next picks. You know,
well, I don't think the Giants foresaw a scenario where Arvell Reese was still going to be on the board. So this is going to be a really fascinating selection for the Giants. Carnell Tate is ecstatic. I don't think even he thought he was going this high. I mean, he is giddy. I mean, and this is now, I believe, 5 consecutive seasons where Ohio State has had at least one wide receiver chosen in the first round, and he's a Chicago kid. Russ Landy will join us later on in the show from Chicago. In 11 games this past season, 51 catches, 875 yards, averaged 17.2 yards per catch, 9 touchdowns, and 39 career games, 1,872 yards, 14 touchdowns. What I really like about him, Big Law, is just a refined route runner, very technically fundamental footwork, can get in and out of his breaks, create separation, but I really like how he tracks the ball. And, he's always been, quote unquote, the second guy, so they speak. Exactly. And he always outproduces whoever the top guy is. I mean, he was probably more productive than Jeremiah Smith a year ago. And we see these receivers from Ohio State, whether it's Emeka Ibuka, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, they come in with the vengeance. They make a splash right away. And I expect Carnell Tate to make a lot of plays. You've got the veteran Calvin Ridley lining up on the opposite end. Chimere Dike really came on out of the slot down the stretch of the season. So suddenly now Cam Ward has a supporting cast to throw to.
So now the Giants have the pick in. So, if the Giants, I mean,
they signed Wan'Dale Robinson. I forgot about that this offseason. So now you brought in Tate. You got Calvin Ridley, Wan'Dale Robinson with Brian Daboll calling the shots there in Tennessee.
The first big surprise of this NFL draft.
I would say so. Yes.
Some people had the kid from Arizona State, possibly
Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, going, and then also, they had the kid from USC also. Those three guys like almost equal. Because remember he ran a 4.5. At combine, they say that kind of dropped him a little bit.
Listen, I wouldn't read in too much to that, but I will say you got the Browns at 6 that need a wide receiver. You got the Saints at 8 that are looking for a wide receiver. The Giants now at 5 and 10. They wouldn't be hard pressed to improve their wide receiver core as well. So a lot of teams looking for receivers. I think you're going to see Jordan Tyson and Mackay Lemon come off the board relatively early, maybe even earlier than we anticipated. So here we go. Buckle up.
Well, we may have some people trade up now with the premium talent on defense still on the board. Some people, right? Well, the Giants look like they may have ran their card.
Looks like the Chiefs traded up. The Chiefs now are picking at 6.
That doesn't show on mine. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Looks like the Chiefs are on the clock. The Giants pick is in, and the Chiefs have moved up now to number 6. Which I had them traded. I had them moving up to draft Reuben Bain, but I'm hearing now Reuben Bain may slide out of the top 10 altogether. We'll see how far he goes. Kansas City here is looking to draft, I believe, Arvell Reese is on their mind, and I think they're looking to get somebody. I think they will look to use an Arvell Reese in a pass rush situation, try to pair him with the Jordan Karlaftis, and you have Chris Jones obviously there, a menace in the middle. So now we're awaiting this Giants selection anxiously. So, I think it's going to be Caleb Downs. Personally, I've never wavered off of that. My gut instinct always told me, hey, Harbaugh, you saw what he did with Kyle Hamilton. You plug in Caleb Downs, pro-ready, pro-made. This guy's football acumen is through the roof, prepares like a professional already, the son of the former Giant Gary Downs. So I'm sure the New York tabloids will have a field day with that one. And, this guy's just been around the game his whole entire life. I think I heard Ryan Day talking about nobody studied more film, who he's as Carnell Tate. And if you watch him, it shows up on the field because he's always in the right place at the right time. I mean, this guy rarely makes a mistake. And you can knock him all you want. You can criticize him. He's not as big as some of the other superior safeties in the NFL. He may not run as fast. I mean, like, you want to nitpick on that stuff, so be it. But this guy can field deep. He can step up in the box. You saw him make an impact at Alabama. He came over, helped the Buckeyes win a national championship. He's played on the biggest stages that there is. And Caleb Downs, to me, is the number one overall player. So for John Harbaugh to come in and plug that kind of piece into his defense, I think sets the tone and it sets the direction into which the New York Giants want to move in.
But hasn't he also used to a guy like he had Ed Reed when he first started coaching? Who is pretty much, in my opinion, the best safety of all time in the NFL, especially from a cerebral standpoint. Just knew what the quarterback was doing before he called the play. So, so him having that kind of a safety back there coming in this young, it'll be interesting to see how he plays with the Giants if he goes there. Now, we're talking about Cleveland trading back. Or fall, trading back with the Chiefs. Chiefs seems like they're definitely going defense.
Well, the Chiefs, I mean, could they pull a wild card with the Carnell Tate? With Carnell Tate coming off the board early, could the Chiefs be looking to make a splash at wide receiver and grab Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon? Could that be in the cards? We'll see, because we'll see very soon, because now, after about 5 minutes of telling us the pick is in, it looks like the Giants are ready to make the announcement.
Yeah, it looks like the G-men are ready to go. Oh, man. This is already the drama, man. This is what it's about, everybody.
Pittsburgh, about a 7-hour drive from here in New Jersey. I'm sure there's plenty of Giants fans. I know our guy, license plate guys, in attendance.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll show him after this pick.
Oh yeah. Of course, the NFL doing their PR move here, bringing extra folks out. Forever the I guess, what is this, TAPS? Oh, these are survivors of soldiers, family members. Okay.
They're so nice in Pittsburgh. I don't know if somebody in the chat room could let us know. Like, usually Roger Goodell gets booed at the start of the draft, but Pittsburgh fans seem so nice to me. I don't know if they booed.
No, they booed him. They booed him.
Okay.
They booed him, but he did have to razz him a little bit and say, you can do better than that, as he always does. But he really wanted to hear what he had to say. Hear what they had to say. Arvell Reese.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, man.
Why?
You want to talk about God? Yeah. Oh my.
I do not believe that the Giants thought the scenario would play out where Arvell Reese would be available to him, and so we did not hear. I did not see anybody say Arvell Reese to the New York Giants. Nobody anticipated that he would be on the board until pick number 5, and what you're getting with is arguably the best player in college football from a year ago. Shot out of a cannon, can play on ball, off ball, has about 138 career reps as a pass rusher. But he's going to be a versatile piece. I'm curious now to see how the Giants implement him, because I do prefer him as an off-ball linebacker. And I think when you have a Kayvon Thibodeau, you have an Abdul Carter, you have a Brian Burns, you don't necessarily need to force Arvell Reese as a pass rusher. He can play his natural linebacker position, and the Giants haven't had a dominant linebacker, and I can't even remember how long. So I do, as much as I like Caleb Downs, and I would prefer Caleb Downs, I do like this selection. I think it's a great fit, and I think this is a cornerstone type of talent for the New York Football Giants.
In the great words of LT, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Now, what he said back in the day, I can tell you one thing. He is going to bring fire like LT. And I think if he brings fire like he has in college, you're looking at probably the Giants, who already had fire. They already would get pressure all over the place, whenever they came off the edge. I think this kid, like you said, no one expected him to have that kind of fire off the edge. And them having him available and that terror of a player like a Lawrence Taylor coming off the edge, I think he can bring some of that terror back based off of oh my goodness. And then he can play. He plays the middle as well with the versatility. I don't know, man. I did not think he was going to be there as well.
Yeah, I got the quote here from Mike Mayock in the NFL Draft Bible. He said, "This year I threw on the tape. I was shocked. It was so good, so much fun to watch. There's no hesitancy anymore. He's now a grown man. He comes downhill. He can disengage with heavy hands. He's great in the pass game. He's really good in the run game. And the cool thing is he's such a good athlete. You could use him in your sub package as a joker. He could stand up in the A-gap blitz. You could put him on the edge." And that's what Mike Mayock had to say about Arvell Reese. And he can do so many different things, and spy the quarterback, get after the quarterback, drop back and pass coverage. 14 games played in 2025, 69 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks, 2 pass deflections, 36 career games, 112 career tackles, 7 sacks overall. So, there's Arvell Reese. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick little break, Big Law, and we'll come back and dissect who the Kansas City Chiefs select with their trade-up move. So we'll be back right after this.
Serritella here for All Access Football. It's not too late to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible, jam-packed with nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, insider intel on character, medical, and background reports, plus a look ahead. 7 NFL Draft Plus, the NFL International Pathway Program prospects. We got it all covered in the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating 25 years of independent scouting analysis. Follow along in all the action. Be the most prepared person in the room with the most accurate projections available on the planet. Go get your copy now over at allaccessfootball.com. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you for your support of independent media. Now back to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Hey, buckle up and hunker down. Rick Serritella of All Access Football here. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. For the past 25 years, we've been bringing you the names you need to know with independent scouting analysis on location across the nation with boots on the ground coverage from training camp to in-season visits, the All-Star Game circuit, and Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine, plus the Pro Day trails and more, capturing the path to the draft with snapshots of hundreds of NFL draft prospects. Be sure to visit allaccessfootball.com for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and subscribe right now to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible featuring nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, our exclusive insider intel, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft. Become a disciple today and visit allaccessfootball.com. The NFL Draft Bible, the Bible of the draft used by all 32 NFL teams. Now back to the 2026 NFL Draft.
Whoa. Whoa. That is amazing. Welcome back, everybody, to the 2026 NFL Draft Bible All Access 2026 Draft Show. So, Rick, now that the Kansas City Chiefs has thrown another monkey wrench into the draft, we have the top cornerback going off early in this draft. I'm so surprised at this move. They gave up 2/3 and they swapped first round picks.
2/3 to move up 3 spots. It's a lot, but there's such a drop off from Mansour Delane to the next cornerback, and I understand this is a big need for the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like they've never really filled the void that L'Jarius Sneed when he departed several years ago. And Mansour Delane is a lockdown cornerback that they can plug and play. You're talking about a difference maker in the pass game. He shows up in the run game. He's very physical, so he lacks prototypical size. But I tell you what, there's not a lot of flaws to his game. He can play press man coverage. And you know what? I liked him at Virginia Tech. He transferred up to play in the SEC, went mano-a-mano with the top dogs week in and week out. Would you have liked to see more interceptions? Absolutely. But you know what? They didn't really target him enough. I think the most impressive stat when it comes to Mansour Delane is no receiver that went up against him this past season had more than a catch on him in a game. So he might allow one, but he's not allowing two. And in 11 games, 45 tackles, 11 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, 44 career games, 191 tackles. Like I spoke to, he helps out against the run. 7 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 27 pass deflections, and 8 interceptions. So he has that interception ability, which you saw at Virginia Tech, where he was also flagged for much more penalties there as well. But you saw the discipline, you saw fewer interceptions, but you also saw fewer targets. And, I understand why he wanted to transfer to LSU. They've been known as DBU. And he's a very mature player. He's got all the attributes you can ask for, and he can fit into any scheme. And Kansas City got themselves a good one. They sacrificed a lot of draft equity, but they filled a huge need for their team.
And the pick is in for the Commanders as well.
Ooh, we're flying.
Yeah, well, that 8 minutes,
Yeah.
That 8 minutes, that's a huge difference now.
I like it.
Yeah, now that we're kind of going pick by pick, everything is coming like this. And it's cool. But also they're doing some more PR work here. But Mansour Delane, the short arms. Some people have spoke about that, how he has some really short arms, but he's a good still does a good job of doing a lot of playing press man.
Yeah, 30-inch arms. He measured in 30 and 6/8 at the pro day. There was a lot of discrepancy with the arm length measurements at the combine this year, but you can compensate with that at the cornerback position. He can close that gap. And, listen, will he be on the wrong end of some taller, lengthier wide receivers who he can't just compete with their length and their vertical? Sure, absolutely. But, hey, how many times is that going to happen per season? You're talking about a guy that you can plug in, week out. Hey, there's their top dog. Go get him.
Sonny Styles goes to Washington. I think that's who they really wanted all along. That young man is kind of like a Swiss Army knife, a little bit to me, where he can play the outside. He plays the inside currently. I think him coming from the safety position, it's right now. I like the pick for them. You know, they had to totally rebuild that defense. They did a good job of filling some spots in the in free agency. Now, a lot of people said this is probably the one of the best young men from a cerebral, from a hospitality, from being just a nice young man, and just has a ton of talent. Give me your idea about Sonny Styles.
Well, you know, he's a jackknife, right? A jack of all trades. At Dan Quinn now, he has his franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Now he has a franchise quarterback of the
Mm.
defense in Sonny Styles. And this is somebody, to your point, who's so cerebral. He learned every linebacker position after converting from his safety spot. He can stuff the run. He can drop back in coverage. He can move around and get after the quarterback. I think he has 10 career sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So you're talking about you get him into Dan Quinn's scheme, and now you've got a chess piece. You can move him around. Very versatile player. You know, you look at how Nick Emmanuel was used for the Seahawks this past season. That is the same way you can implement a Sonny Styles. He has that type of skill set. Look at the measurements. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's 6'5", 244 pounds, and ran a 4.46 40-yard dash with a 1.56 10-yard split. Incredible explosion, 43.5-inch vertical jump, 11'2" broad jump. And then you talk about the lateral side-to-side line ability with a 4.26 shuttle and 7.093 cone. The change of direction is insane. People this big are just not supposed to move this fast. And I remember his father, Lorenzo Styles, the linebacker, was not a too shabby player of himself.
Oh my goodness. So what is it? They call it the 99th percentile as far as like everything that all his abilities. Like he's so athletic and he was off the charts in just about everything that he did at the combine. And then he hit it out of the park with his interviews. And a lot of people have said that this guy is the one of the 2 or 3 blue chip talents along with the running back. Do you agree with that?
He's my number 2 overall player in the draft. And, you know, he had 14 games played this past season, 82 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, 3 pass deflections, an interception. He makes plays, 53 career games, 244 tackles, 22.5 for loss, 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 9 pass deflections, and an interception. So the production is there. Somewhat of a late bloomer, really finding his way in that Buckeyes defense. And you look at the way that Matt Patricia kind of employed him in that Buckeyes defense. I think Dan Quinn will be taking a lot of notes out of that playbook and utilize Sonny Styles in the same type of capacity.
You want to talk about 2 guys who want to represent your 2 sides of the ball. You got Jaden Daniels, who is Boy Scout. It looks like this guy is Boy Scout 1A. You know what I mean? This is a great way to build your team. Like you said, you got your quarterback on the defense playing that middle. The kid looks like he's jacked. He looks great. Look at that suit. That suit looks great on him. And I said he's clean, man. And going to Washington with Dan Quinn and the new defensive coordinator. You know, you give him a chess piece coming from that Minnesota defense, which applied all different types of pressure, all different kinds of ways. You know, you moving personnel around, confusing quarterbacks. I think it's a great pick for Washington. So,
yeah, and you know, you listen to some of the teams, and they talk about this guy really just blew every interview out of the water. I mean, they came in, and you know, you talk about maturity, preparation, being around the game, the pedigree, the bloodlines, the mental IQ, the acumen. I mean, Sonny Styles has it all. He's the real deal, and he moves around. You know, when he's on the field, he's arguably the fastest player on the field at 6'5", 250. It's incredible the type of athleticism that he displays. Now, I believe the New Orleans Saints are next up on the clock here, Big Law, and I think this could potentially be a wide receiver or maybe a trade with the edge rushers, you know, being a hot commodity here. Maybe somebody looks to make a move up. We have not seen, surprisingly enough, we're on Pick number 8, we have not seen an offensive lineman selected.
Right.
And, I had at least 6 offensive tackles plus the guard. I thought 7 or at least 8 offensive linemen. So I think there'll be a big run here in the middle part of the first round on the offensive lineman. We'll see how much this herniated disc now for Francis Mauigoa of the Miami Hurricanes offensive tackle, if that impacts his draft stock. But it's surprising, to get almost through the top 10 without an offensive tackle being selected.
Well, you think about this as well. I mean, with them having, I guess they found their quarterback of the future in Tyler Slowey and wanting to get some protection for him, right? I can see them taking an offensive lineman here, but like you said, they're either, to me, it's either going to be a run or, do they want to get probably some people's opinions the best defensive player in Caleb Downs.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How far does Caleb? The Giants now are probably holding their breath that Downs can get to 10.
Oh, God.
But I will say, you mentioned Tyler Shuck, who I'm not a big believer in, but the organization feels good about him. And I think the ultimate risk-reward selection would be a Jordan Tyson because he has the greatest upside. He also comes with the greatest risk due to the injury history. But, they traded off Rashid Shaheed. They really never got much back. Outside of Chris Olave, they have nothing. It's a big nothing burger there in New Orleans. So now if you put Olave with Tyson, suddenly, Tyler Shuck has some weaponry to work with. And, it looks like the Saints are going to remain pat here. There has not been a trade. I thought there might be a trade here.
Yeah.
And, just looking at the Saints depth chart, Mason Tipton is out of Yale. He's actually the only wide receiver ever to make the NFL out of Yale University. He's been a preseason standout the last 2 training camps, but is really yet to see any proven time. They did get Devon Veely. They flipped the 4th round pick to Denver during the trade deadline, and Veely played very well down the stretch. But again, I mean, none of these guys have more than 250 yards receiving for their career. And behind them, there's really a bunch of unproven commodities. You're talking about players such as Bubba Means, Jalen Polk, Kevin Austin. Oh,
here we go. Pick is in. So, here we go. Jordan Tyson, you hit it right on the head. You hit that on the head.
There was a lot of smoke there leading up to the draft that Tyson was their target, and we just alluded to all the reasons why. He's a phenomenal route runner, explosive playmaker, probably the most dynamic receiver in this year's draft class, but you do have to factor in the injury concerns. And if you go back even to his high school days, Big Law, he has not been able to get through a single season healthy. But when he's on the field, he must be accounted for. So this is a game changer type of weapon on the offense that, listen, there's going to be times where you're holding your breath, hoping that he doesn't get hurt because availability is your best ability. And, he missed 4 weeks in 2025 with a hamstring injury. We know that hammy has lingered, took about 4 months for him to actually conduct a workout since that injury. He also suffered a broken collarbone in 2024. You remember he missed a college football playoff game where Cam Scatterbu ran wild against Texas, but they lost that game. Had they have had Jordan Tyson, they may have pulled that one off. He also had a severe knee injury, ACL, MCL, and PCL that ended his freshman season prematurely. Okay. Now, there was also another injury in high school that he endured coming out, transitioning to college. Now, of course, he comes from an athletic family. He was mentored by Hines Ward, the wide receiver coach there for the Sun Devils. And, he's a physical guy despite the injuries. Like, he plays physical. It's just his body at, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got adequate size. and he did not test at his pro day workout. He just ran about 20 to 25 routes, only one dropped pass, but 9-inch hands, 30-inch arms out of Allen, Texas, that Jordan Tyson.
Big kid, man, too. Just a big kid, like you said. Just, you just see him on the field, long, lean, with room to grow to me, 6'2", plus. I mean, he just took a knee down, and he was crying. He's still crying up front. This is the best part about NFL draft. The NFL draft, when you see the emotion from these young men, realizing that their dreams are coming true, and being able to do things that they could only dream of. This is it, man. This is what makes this event so beautiful. These young men, all this hard work, all this support, and
well, I think it's a beautiful combination now. Like I said, Chris Olave, you plug in Jordan Tyson as the opposite starter. You've got Devon Bailey in the slot now, who looks like a promising developing player. So now you have a trifecta of targets, right, for Tyler Shuck. They signed Travis Etienne in the offseason.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara is still there, still ticking, still going. And he's not a bad pass catcher out of the backfield either.
Oh.
They signed Noah Fant to bring in some backup there to Juwan Johnson, the tight end, who actually had himself a very productive season there for New Orleans, making the conversion from wide receiver. He's now coming into his own. But, listen, Saints now are going to have to go on the defensive side of the ball, I think, moving forward in the draft. They have secured a dynamic playmaker on offense with the selection of Jordan Tyson. Big ticket free agent acquisition in Etienne. They've got their franchise quarterback solidified. New Orleans now needs to concentrate defense moving forward.
Well, the Browns, their pick is in as well. Now, where the Browns go from here, remember, they traded back, gave up 2/3 with Kansas City a little earlier in this draft. And where the Browns go will be very interesting. Browns need a lot, as well. I mean, I think that they could always use a quarterback, it always seems, at Cleveland. But so we got 30 seconds coming up. But having Jordan Tyson go earlier, I think that, did you see Deshaun Watson working out?
Yeah. No, this is going to be a legit quarterback competition between Watson and Sanders. Sanders will go in as the favorite, but I mean, Watson is getting paid a lot of money, so I think it's going to be fascinating. It'll be interesting. I don't know who had 3 wide receivers projected in the first round, but this could be Mekhi Lemon with the run on receivers. Cleveland needing a top target for whoever is that starting quarterback, and boy, oh boy, that might say something about how the rest of the first round trends, if it is indeed Mekhi Lemon.
Here we go. Spencer Fono as offensive lineman. Hey, they gotta protect. Big boy. Okay.
So that's a little interesting to me. So maybe there is something more than meets the eye when it comes to the herniated disc with Francis Mauigoa. I thought Mauigoa was the more polished, more violent, more ready player to step in. The Browns do have DeJuan Jones currently at left tackle. They signed Titus Howard from the Houston Texans during the offseason. So now Spencer Fono, maybe he comes in and competes at guard. A lot of teams liked him at guard. They have Zion Johnson there, who they signed from the Chargers. I believe he's coming off a season-ending injury. Tevin Jenkins is another converted tackle to guard. And then Elton Jenkins, who's their center, has 5-position flex versatility. He's played tackle, guard, and now center. So you look at what the Browns are doing on the offensive line. They have all these versatile parts, these cross-training offensive linemen where they can mix and match and try to get the best 5 offensive linemen on the field for the best protection possible, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson.
Wow. So first offensive lineman goes off the board at number 9, and he was a monster at Utah. I mean, and Utah has been a really good college football program, and has put quite a few pros into the league. And here comes Roger Goodell already. The Giants, and this is going to be awful.
This has got to be Caleb Downs. I mean, this is a dream scenario for the New York Giants. You get the top overall player in the entire draft at pick number 10 to pair with his teammate, Arvell Reese. What an unbelievable combination this would be.
Francis Mangoa. Wow. They picked the offensive lineman. Jackson Dart gets protection. Another offensive line. You're probably like, what in the world just happened?
You know, I mean, it's a gut punch because I live here right down the road and I want to see the Giants be good and I want to see them be competitive. I understand the need. I understand the logic.
Oh.
I don't hate the selection. You know, I just felt like you had the opportunity here to get another blue chip talent. While Francis Mauigoa is certainly going to be a high caliber starter, I did not view him in the same caliber as a Caleb Downs. But listen, the Giants' offensive line was vastly improved. I think that Mauigoa may fit in at guard here with Jermaine Ellimore and Andrew Thomas at offensive tackle. They signed Daniel Falele over from Baltimore at guard. John Runyon is the other guard. The guard spot is a little bit suspect. So I would not be surprised if Mauigoa started off at guard here. They also have Marcus Mabo, who was a very promising rookie. He's got swingman versatility. He actually got a few spot starts. He played a little bit of guard. He played a little bit of tackle. So again, the Giants now with some added flexibility and obviously a lot more depth on their offensive line, which is going to do wonders for the development of the one Jackson Dart. Looks like Dallas just traded with the Dolphins. Will Donahue letting us know in the chat room. Unbelievable.
We got two picks. Yes, the Cowboys are up to number 11 now. Oh, wow.
All right, so here's what we'll do, Big Loss. Since we got Howard Balzer queued up, ready to come on after pick 10, we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and recap all the action. You're tuned in to the 2026 All Access Football NFL Draft Watch Show. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll have Howard Balzer coming up right after this.
Pull up and hunker down. Rick Serritella of All Access Football here. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. For the past 25 years, we've been bringing you the names you need to know with independent scouting analysis on location across the nation with boots on the ground coverage from training camp to in-season visits, the All-Star Game circuit, and Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine, plus the Pro Day trails and more, capturing the path to the draft with snapshots of hundreds of NFL draft prospects. Be sure to visit allaccessfootball.com for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and subscribe right now to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible featuring nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, our exclusive insider intel, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft. Become a disciple today and visit allaccessfootball.com. The NFL Draft Bible, the Bible of the draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Now back to the 2026 NFL Draft. Rick Serritella here for All Access Football. It's not too late to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible, jam-packed with nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, insider intel on character, medical, and background reports, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft, plus the NFL International Pathway Program prospects. We got it all covered in the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating 25 years of independent scouting analysis. Follow along in all the action. Be the most prepared person in the room with the most accurate projections available on the planet. Go get your copy now over at allaccessfootball.com, your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you for your support of independent media. Now back to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Hey, Rick Serritella here for allaccessfootball.com. Thanks for watching our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Just a quick programming reminder, the All Access Football Draft Watch show airs every Saturday morning live at 10 a.m. Eastern with yours truly, along with my co-host, Russ Landy, who brings 30 years of NFL, CFL, and XFL scouting experience each and every week. We count you down with hard-hitting analysis, the prospects, the names you need to know. The countdown is on. Destination Washington, D.C. begins now. Make sure you tune in every Saturday morning, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, as we count you down to the nation's capital for the 2027 NFL Draft. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002. It's what we do. Make sure you follow along with the NFL Draft Bible, the official Bible of the draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. Now, back to our 2026 live stream coverage of the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. Buckle up!
All right, everybody. Looks like we're ready for some guests and coming to you. 50 years of NFL coverage.
I don't see him in the green room just yet, but he'll
He's
be
not
with
there
us.
right yet?
I don't
Okay.
see him just yet, but he'll be
Okay.
with us shortly. But I was thinking about this pick during the commercial break, and wouldn't it be something if the Cowboys made a splash here and drafted Reuben Bain?
Oh,
I
my.
mean, that to me would just be a phenomenal selection. Obviously, the loss of Micah Parsons, and quite frankly, Big Law, I got to be honest with you. I think the NFL is overthinking it when it comes to Reuben Bain because, just like they said, Derrick Henry was too big, too tall, runs too high to play running back. I think we're making too much of the Reuben Bain arm length. We're outside. Oh, we got an alert.
Oh, here we go. They select Caleb Downs. Blue chip talent, man. What a pick for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I alluded to it. My number one player on the board, the Dallas Cowboys trade up to nab him at 11. I guess we should introduce our next guest and get the reaction. You guys heard me rant and rave about Caleb Downs just a minute ago. I thought the Giants would pull the trigger there. You know how I feel about him. Let's get our next guest thoughts. Big Law, you want to welcome our guest?
Yes, sir. Celebrating 50 years of covering the NFL, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, has covered over 40 Super Bowls, former columnist with The Sporting News, Pro Football Weekly, USA Today, and The Sports Exchange, member of the Pro Football Sports Writers Association, former Secretary-Treasurer for the Pro Football Writers Association, inducted into the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, senior editor of Lindy's Pro Football, co-host of Sirius XM's NFL Radio Preview magazine, coming to a bookstore near you. Currently, Cardinals NFL rep for Cards Wire, the initial analyst of the NFL Draft on ESPN from 1980 to 1988. And he joins us now for our 2026 draft coverage on All Access Football. Everybody, welcome to legendary Howard Balser. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you. You're up. don't have to stand up. I was thinking after that intro that we weren't going to have any time for the interview here, but very.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on, Howard. Obviously, you bring a lot of experience, expertise, a pioneer in this draft game, paving the way for individuals like us. So let's just start off. Caleb Downs just came off the board. Dallas Cowboys trade up. We'll get into your thoughts on the top 10, but give us some reaction here to Caleb Downs going to Dallas.
Interesting to me that they move up one spot. I mean, were they that worried that Miami was going to take Caleb Downs? Now, they only gave up a fifth and a seventh round pick, so it wasn't like they gave up a lot for it. But obviously, they wanted to make sure that they got him, and they did it. We've seen that before in other years. Not an awful lot of time, but we'll see it from time to time where a team will make a deal just to move up one spot to make sure they get the guy that they want. So excellent pickup. I know you were just mentioning, Rick, you were talking about him. I was doing a show yesterday here in Arizona and talked about him a lot. I said, everyone's talking about Mendoza and everyone's talking about Jeremiah Love and all the edge rushers and all those guys and the offensive linemen. And I said, hey, don't sleep on Caleb Downs. Certainly the best safety in the draft. We know how important those guys can be to a team, and a very good spot for him to go at 11th overall in the first round.
Yeah, I like what Dallas did. They didn't give up too much, but they made sure they got the guy that they wanted. You mentioned the Cardinals. Since you're there in Phoenix, you cover the team on a regular basis. Take us through the thought process and logic with Jeremiah Love, who is a 3-down back. They re-signed James O'Connor. They also signed Tyson Algier from the Falcons. But there's really not much of a need for those guys anymore because Love doesn't come off the field. But give us your take.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There's many backs anymore that don't come off the field at all. And so, that's the thing. But the key is, you said, being a 3-down back. I mean, this guy is more than just, quote, a running back. He obviously brings that pass-catching ability to the offense and things you can do with a player like that. Similar to Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco, similar to Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. And obviously there's been a lot of chatter about Love here in Arizona over the last week or two. And, a lot of people have mixed opinion on it. Some say, well, why would you do that? You don't have the offensive line, to block for him. I've always been of the opinion that in a lot of cases, the running back can make the line look better. That's one part of it. The other part is people forget. I mean, there's a lot of collective amnesia in sports. We forget what happened a year or two ago, much less what happened yesterday sometimes. But 2 seasons ago, when the Cardinals were 8-9 and a season that created a lot of optimism for last season, with an offensive line that I look at and don't see where it's that much better than what the Cardinals have now. And that line, their starting left guard, Will Hernandez, and their starting right tackle, Jonah Williams, missed a combined 23 games. And yet they had balance in the offense. James Conner went over 1,000 yards, close to 1,100 rushing. He and Trey Benson averaged 4.6 yards per attempt. And so, in my mind, why wouldn't you take a Jeremiah Love with all the things he can do for this offense? And, last year Conner got hurt early. Benson got hurt early. They had no running game. And I maintain that if they'd had at least some semblance of a running attack last season, they'd have been a much different team on offense. And so now he comes to Arizona, where you have Trey McBride at tight end, obviously one of the best, if not the best, tight ends in the NFL. You have Michael Wilson, who really stepped up last season when Marvin Harrison Jr. was out, and now you have Harrison, coming back and really being motivated to calm some of the critics who wonder if the Cardinals shouldn't have drafted him 4th overall. So they've got a lot of pieces on this offense now. And the other part of it is, people on the offensive line, they upgraded left guard with Isaac Seumalo, and right tackle was the big question. Now, I think they're still going to try to draft a tackle. And it was interesting a couple picks ago when the Browns picked Fano from Utah, I said, "Ooh, does this start the run on offensive linemen and tackles?" And sure enough, Maui Noa went with the next pick. So we'll see what happens there with a bunch of really good tackles in this first round. But they did sign Cardinals signed Elijah Wilkinson to play right tackle. And people say, he's a journeyman. What is he, this and that. Well, he started all 17 games for the Falcons last year on a team where Bijan Robinson rushed for almost 1,500 yards. So I think what Love can mean and what he can do for this offense is immeasurable compared to who else they would have gotten. Yeah, they could have taken one, the edge rusher. They could have taken, obviously, someone else. This is instant offense, instant impact of what he can do. And I know there's going to be people, this was an owner pick. He wanted a guy that'll sell jerseys and come in and create a little excitement. No, I know one thing. This was a coaching staff pick. The coaching staff of the new coaching staff on offense loved Jeremiah Love. And this was a football pick, pure and simple for what this guy can do for the Cardinals. And I'll just finish this. I know I've gone on a little bit of a rant here, but my only concern with drafting running backs high, and I saw a note this week that his $50 million plus contract over 4 years, he will be the highest paid running back in the history of the NFL.
Wow.
But, whoever was picked third was going to make that money. But obviously, if you pick an edge rusher, you can list a bunch of guys that would be making more than that. But the point being is that the one concern with a running back is if that guy plays up to the level that you expect, what happens with the second contract? That's where you run into some issues sometimes because teams don't want to we've seen that. And to me, guys, I've never liked the whole, what's the word? The whole mantra, whatever, that running backs are devalued. No. Running backs have never been devalued in terms of what they can do. They've been devalued on what the contract looks like when they get to that third or fourth year, and teams have been burnt in the past when they've paid some guys huge money, and then all of a sudden they started to descend or they got injured or whatever it might be. But I'm sure the Cardinals are looking at this. We can't worry about 3 or 4 years from now. We have to worry about now and what this guy can do for us in the next 3 seasons. And I think that was pretty much the genesis of, which is a very good selection.
Well, we said a run on tackles. We just had another tackle just go for the Dolphins. They picked up the super athletic Caden Proctor out of Alabama.
Yes, I looked at the list of tackles and saw 7 guys that would be either first round picks or first half of the second round picks. And who knows, maybe all 7 will go in the first round, that we have already 3 in the first 12 selections. And, we still have Monroe Freeling from Georgia. You still got Blake Miller from Clemson, Caleb Lamou from Utah. And of course, I was looking for a guy that I think the Cardinals might be hoping that he lasts to the second round, a local Arizona State player. And I had to study how you pronounce his name, Max Ihonachur, who is a kind of a project. He hasn't been in the position for that long, but pretty much everyone agrees this guy can be a really good player at the NFL level. So there's 7 tackles right there that might go by the end of the first round, but certainly will disappear quickly in the second round if they don't go in round 1.
I think we're going to see that run coming. And, it's interesting, Howard, too, because some of these tackles may be slotted in at guard. And I think Francis Mauigoa of the Giants might find himself in that situation. And maybe even a Caden Proctor for the Dolphins may start there off at guard with Austin Jackson, Patrick Paul at offensive tackle. You could stick Proctor in at guard. He's more of a run mauling type of blocker, needs to enhance his pass protection still, and he can work on that and develop that, and maybe he transitions out to an offensive tackle. But I think he may begin on the interior. But obviously they brought in Malik Willis. They want to protect him, and I like the selection of Caden Proctor. Yeah. I'm a big fan.
And the one pure guard that I didn't mention is the kid from Penn State, who I won't try to pronounce his name.
Vega Ione.
Ione, yeah. And so he's going to go at some point here in the first round. I'm fairly certain. And teams realize it. It's always interesting to me. Rick, you've heard me say this many times. How the whole talk at the draft and going into the season is, does this team have the offensive line to do things on offense? Do they have the defensive line? It's an old cliche, but it's not a cliche. It's absolutely true. to win, you have to be strong, good in the trenches. And then when all of a sudden a team struggles, especially on offense, and the offensive line isn't very good, who gets blamed? Does anybody talk about the line? No. They have collective amnesia, and all they do is blame the play caller, blame the coordinator, blame the quarterback. That's who gets blamed. But most of the time, if you don't have that line, you have struggles. And I'll tell you, you look at the Eagles, I want to add this up at some point. But if you go back over the last close to decade, what's the Eagles' record when Lane Johnson is on the field and when he's not? It's significant difference.
Yep.
So that's how important that line is, which was proved in 2 of the last, what is this, 5, 6 Super Bowls to the Chiefs when they had all those issues in the offensive line, and Patrick Mahomes was running for his life against the Buccaneers in the 1 Super Bowl and then against the Eagles 2 Super Bowls ago. So you better have that line. You better, build out from there if you're going to be a successful team. And that's what Howie Roseman's been able to do with the Eagles consistently. And every team needs to look at it that way and make sure you have those guys in place if you expect, especially on offense, to have any consistency in your play.
Yeah, the game is won in the trenches. There's a reason why when you're down there at the All-Star games, whoa, big surprise here that the scouts all run around and huddle around the trench warfare action. I got to say, this next selection does surprise me. I don't know if you guys have seen it on your monitor, but the LA Rams have just chosen Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama.
Whoa.
Good God.
I guess you should never say. Most everybody's going to say that's too early for Ty Simpson, but it doesn't surprise me. But how can you say that any decision that Les Snead makes with the collaboration of Sean McVay is taking a quarterback too early? I mean, he is the second best quarterback in the draft. Some wondered, is he really a first-round pick? And I guess this makes Dan Orlovsky look pretty good. But we don't know. We don't know what would have happened if the Rams didn't take him here, where he ended up going. But obviously, they're set. They believe they're set for whenever Matthew Stafford decides to hang it up. And now they've got time to work with Simpson, who can. And I think he had an interview this week where he said it would be great for him. He said that if I could learn behind Matthew Stafford. So it's a great situation for him. Only started 15 games in college. And so learn from one of the best quarterbacks ever, from certainly one of the best head coaches ever, who obviously knows offense. And then whenever it is, be ready to play for them. And it's a pick that makes a lot of sense, obviously, for a team that's already very good. I mean, bottom line is they're picking at 13 because of the trade they made. I mean, it's not because of their bad record last year. So you're going to a very good team and a very good situation for your development in the NFL.
I'm surprised they didn't go with the wide receiver from USC.
I would have thought the Rams were gonna maybe ante up for one more run, the small window of opportunity with Matthew Stafford, maybe grab them a Mekhi Lemon to pair there with Devontae Adams.
But here's the thing with the Rams. I mean, we know the T-shirts that Les Snead put together when they got to the Super Bowl that year, F number 1 picks. And we've seen how good they are at later in the draft. Because, I mean, I think this is only their second first-round pick in the last 9 drafts?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And so
I think they have the fewest first-round picks of any team in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken.
And you look at continuity in organizations, and usually we look at head coaching, but Les Snead has been the GM, I believe, since 2011 or maybe 2012 when Jeff Fisher took the head coaching job there. So he's been there for a decade and a half. Sean McVay has been the head coach since 2017. And so you have that consistency and stability. And Snead, I think, is one of the more underrated talent evaluators in the NFL. And so very, very interesting. I want to tell you guys something that made me think of this. I always laugh at all the run up to the draft and all the fans who think, that they know more than these teams and all that. There was something on social media a couple of weeks ago, and I don't remember who did the poll, but they polled fans and said, do you think that you can do a better job picking players for your team than the GM of your favorite team? And believe it or not, 37% of Seahawks fans said they could do it better than John Schneider.
Better than the NFL Executive of the Year, of course.
Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
You know, it's one thing for the analysts, and I think you're one of those guys. You know, I'm a little surprised and all that, but I don't think you come out, oh, that guy's stupid. He didn't do what I thought he was going to do. But there are some who do that, and a lot of it's all about entertainment and all those things. But I thought of the Rams because Jordan Rodriguez. I don't know if you guys have seen this story, but if you happen, seek it out. Everybody watching, seek it out. She did a story on The Athletic earlier this week of how what the other teams are doing with all this new technology and how it's helping them speed up the scouting process, how it's helped them with different things and all that. And you know the teams that are already doing it well are probably using it even more to see how they can get better. Some of the others, well, no, we don't want to do that. It costs too much money, whatever it might be. It was a fascinating story.
Very fascinating, yes.
And then there was a click in the story to a 2-part series that she did on the Rams. She covered the Rams for The Athletic. There was a 2-part series that I hadn't seen 2 years ago where the Rams allowed her access to meetings and scout meetings. She was able to travel with scouts on the road on some occasions. And it was just fascinating to see how basically how the sausage gets made with the Rams in terms of all the evaluation. And I urge anybody who thinks that they know more than these teams to just read those stories, because you'll realize that you don't know anything in terms of the information that these teams have. Now, it doesn't mean that every pick works, because it's human beings. There's so many reasons why players don't work when they get to the next level. But the information that they have is just worlds above what anyone else has, whether it's media, whether it's fans, whoever it is. And I think everyone always has to keep that in mind when, and I can understand it's all entertainment. Bill Polian calls it the draft industrial complex. It's all for entertainment, he says. And and the Dane Bruglers and the Daniel Jeremiahs and you and Mel Kiper and all these people who do it, they work hard at it. I mean, they do, and they do an excellent job of evaluating. But all their opinions are different on these guys, where they have them ranked. And the reality is, the teams have these guys ranked differently in a lot of cases. And I think people lose sight of that at times, or don't realize it, but should, because that's just the nature of this, very involved process. Where one GM told me once, "Hey, you know what? I'll never admit it publicly, but we're all just guessing. We're just all guessing on how these guys are going to make the transition from college football against young guys to pros and old grizzled veterans. We're just guessing. But you also know that you better guess right more than you guess wrong. Otherwise, you're not going to have a job for very long."
Well, there we go. We got a pick made. Looks like the Ravens, a sorely needed position. They got Ione, the stud interior guard from Penn State, man. This is really what they needed to continue to bludgeon people with the incredible running back, also to protect Lamar Jackson. What do you think about this pick for the Ravens, Rick?
Well, Vega Ione was born to be a Raven, an interior mauler. You think about Marshall Yanda and what he brought to the Baltimore Ravens. He is in that caliber, that type of elk. And I know they signed John Simpson, the guard there, during the offseason. They doubled down with Vega Ione, who's a very polished product, really doesn't allow many sacks, doesn't get called for too many penalties, strong hand placement, good footwork, stout frame, bubble butt, the real deal. Vega Ione, born to be a Raven.
Yeah, no doubt. And so now we have 4 offensive linemen in the last 5 picks.
Here comes the run.
And by the way, Caleb Downs was it 4th? Let me make sure I count him up right. 4th Ohio State player in the first 11 choices.
By the way, since we have you here, you were not on for the first 10 picks, Howard. What were your thoughts on Carnell Tate? I thought that was a pretty surprising selection there.
Somewhat surprising because and there again, it comes down to how teams view players. I mean, and you can make the argument that, maybe Jordan Tyson should have been ahead of him, or those are the only 2 wide receivers taken so far. I think there was a little bit of concern with Tyson's injury history, as good a player that he is. But, I mean, you can't argue with the pedigree of Ohio State receivers. And, again, it comes down to what the Titans feel is the best fit for that offense. And so, obviously, we'll see if it works out for them. No reason to think it won't. The guy's a quality player. And so, but, yeah, I never like to use the word surprise anymore, because that's what the draft is. I mean, the draft is filled with, quote, surprises. So we never should be surprised anymore. I have a joke that I say to some people sometimes. Sometimes I get the notion or the idea that people looking at the draft and in the run-up to the draft, that they've never been on Earth before. They were living on some other planet. They fall to Earth for this draft, and they've never seen how other drafts are. And then stuff happens, and they go, "Oh my goodness! Oh, I can't believe that!" Or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. And all we know is most of the stuff that gets talked about doesn't happen, but it's all forgotten once the draft is here. And that, to me, that's the best thing when the first round is over, and especially Saturday. Well, we're done with all the clickbait. We're done with all the speculation. We're done with all that, and everybody going crazy over it all. That is, and I don't know, maybe you'll be one of them who does it. That is until someone next week does a mock draft for 2027.
We got it queued up. We got it queued up on the website coming out Saturday.
Here's what my suggestion would be, because obviously, first of all, you don't know how many underclassmen are going to come in, and obviously, no one has any idea what the order of selection is. So just do a top 50. Just here's my.
We got that too.
That can make sense going into the season, what the top 50 looks like. But a mock draft, heck, I can remember the day, guys, many, where everybody did one mock draft, right? And they did it a week before, within a few days of the draft. Now you have people doing 5, 6, 7 mock drafts. And so, and
every week.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the rule of those? Everyone has to be different, right? So you're picking guys different here, there, and everywhere. And then at some point you can, let me see. Oh, look at this mock draft 3.0. I had 20 right going to the right teams, right? All from different drafts. So, but I know it makes it fun, and that's what everybody loves to talk about at this time of the year. And now when it's over, we'll get into really getting ready for the 2026 season.
Wow.
Yeah, I got Big Ione and Jordan Tyson right in my mock, and I don't know about obviously Fernando Mendoza, but what else? Anything else stand out to you in the top 10 before we get to this Tampa Bay selection, Howard?
I thought what the Chiefs did, and they only moved up 3 spots, but they wanted to make sure to get who they believe, and most people, I think, the consensus is that Mansour Delane is the best corner in the draft, and they wanted to make sure they got him, so they traded up three spots. Gave up a 3rd and a 5th round pick. Obviously, they believe that was worth it. And then the Browns moved down 3 picks, get those 2 other ones, and they get the first tackle off the board. So that ends up being a pretty good move for the Browns also. So I think that was very solid. I think that another a lot of mischaracterization, and people here in Arizona. So I don't know what went on in other cities with fans, but there are people would have been up in arms if the Cardinals took Arvell Reese, because his college career was spent mostly doing a lot of different things. That's what Cardinals fans viewed him as. And then Tony Pauline had a social media post that it was either yesterday or the day before, claiming that the Cardinals view Reese as a hybrid player. And of course, that word hybrid gets Cardinal fans going nuts because of Javen Collins and Isaiah Simmons and all that.
Simmons, yeah.
And I responded to it by saying, let me tell you one thing. I know for a fact that the Cardinals view him as an edge rusher. And that's what basically everybody in the NFL views him as. Now, it might take him a little more time because he didn't do it that much in college. So it might take him a little more time to, get with the program of now with the Giants, the team he goes to. But everyone was viewing him as an edge rusher, not a hybrid. And so I think that pick ends up being a pretty solid one for the Giants. And they end up with him and Maui Noah to continue the John Harbaugh rebuild there. So I think the Giants do pretty well with those 2 picks.
So now we have Ruben Bain going off the board finally with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He gets to stay in the beautiful sunshine state of Florida, wreaking havoc. I think he went a lot lower than I would have picked him. I think the guy from a production standpoint, from just a real hardcore football player, giving you everything he has with an incredible motor. This is the guy. I really love this guy. I'm looking for great things from him on this next level.
No, I think he's definitely capable of it. I think sometimes, generally, what we all forget, and we say, oh, this guy went later than I thought, didn't think he would last. What did he end up being? 14th in the round. Well, he's still the 3rd edge rusher, right? And so in between Reese and him, there are teams taking players at other positions. And I think that has to be taken into context. And I heard an interesting theory on Bain in terms of the whole short arm discussion. And it's a fact. He has short arms. And so you have that question, how's it going to be when he starts getting blocked by these NFL, offensive linemen with long arms? How is he going to be? And the point was made that if you draft a guy like that in the top 5, and everybody knows he has short arms, including the owner who doesn't know much about football, but they picked the guy in the top 5, and all of a sudden now he isn't what they thought he was going to be. And they say, well, what the heck? You picked a guy with short arms. If you take him at 15 or a little bit later in the round, then that part of it isn't as big. Well, he lasted because of that, perhaps, but we're still getting a quality player. We can work with him, and he doesn't have that thing on his shoulders that, oh, gosh, you were a top 5 pick, and you just have to be a great player. And so I think sometimes that can enter into the conversations that go on behind closed doors. Because the middle of the first round, I remember, guys, that Gil Brandt would say to me all the time, in the draft as it is now, 32 teams, obviously 32 first-round picks, there's not 32 players with true first-round grades. And he would always say there's probably 15 to 16, maybe in a really good year, a couple more than that. But most of the guys taking the first round aren't true first-rounders, but you have to have 32 first-round picks. And so he said from the middle of the first round to the middle of the second round, and maybe even longer than that, there's not that much difference with a lot of those players, whatever the position is. But it's not viewed that way by he's a first round pick. He has to work out. But that's what ends up happening, sometimes, and that gets put on a player, and they have to live up to those expectations. But that's the reality of where these grades are. I was amazed when I was told by someone with the Rams back in the day when I was in St. Louis and covering them, and I forget who it was I was talking to in the personnel department. He says, how many players do you think we have on our draft board as draftable? Because obviously these teams know there's going to be 257 players taken. So you think they'd have a whole slew of players up there rated. So when they get to the 6th or 7th round, they're all ready. They said, we only rate about 150 guys, sometimes even less. Mm-hmm. And we've never had a time where we've run out of players. So, right. And that also shows, especially when you get to round 6, 7, how interchangeable a lot of the guys are. And you're taking chances there on guys with not great measurables and all those things. But it's interesting from those numbers to just show, again, the difference of evaluation within teams that exists. And that's not opinion. That's just reality.
Well, I can tell you, these gems that you're dropping, Howard, we really appreciate it. Really, thank you for coming on today. And, this has just been a great opportunity to connect with you. And we really got to thank you for your time here and your analysis out there in the beautiful desert out west. But anything else you want to say in closing?
The one thing I was going to say is, obviously with the Cardinals, there was a lot of talk about Ty Simpson and the potential of trading into the back end of the first round, or maybe with their second pick in the second round. Now we don't have to worry about that. That's off the board right now. But I was told by someone very close to the Cardinals thinking that they like Simpson, right? But the only chance they have of taking him is if he fell to them, and even then it would be a maybe. And that may be based on what other players are obviously available and what you're looking for at that spot in the round. So I'll be curious now with some of these other quarterbacks, the Nussmeyers of the world, and Alar and Carson Beck. And I know the Cardinals did a lot of work on Cole Payton of North Dakota State, Talon Green, Cade Klubnik, what we normally see happen in the draft, especially after the first round, and your top guys are gone. Sometimes you have like a Tyler Shuck, from last year going the second. But after that, teams start looking third round on, and they're, well, should we take a quarterback here? I mean, he's not going to play. He's just going to be holding the clipboard. Or do we take that player who we hope can come in and make a contribution on offense or defense, but at the very least contribute on special teams? And so that's what ends up pushing quarterbacks at that point later in the draft. And if you make the right decision and have the right situation, you can develop a guy there. Yes, a lot of them don't work out, but I think a guy like Nussmeier is very fascinating because playing all last season with an injury, and again, go to the right spot, right coaching, and all those things. And who knows? I mean, he can end up being just as good a quarterback as Ty Simpson when the dust clears in 5 to 10 or in 10 years or whatever. So we'll see.
Well, be sure to go check out the legendary Howard Bowser at Cards Wire. And we got to thank you for coming on. And you have a great night. Thank you for your time. And this draft is rolling. 8 minutes, man. This thing's going. So thank you. And good night, Mr. Bowser.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Howard. Appreciate you.
And now coming to the stage, we have the founder of Baldy's Breakdown. Make sure you go get your merch at Baldy's Breakdowns. Make sure you get all of the gear that you want to get. This man is a legend in the football world. Spent over a decade in the NFL as an undrafted free agent, offensive lineman out of Duke in 1982. Former offensive lineman of the Bergamo Lions O-line coach of the Bergamo Lions for the Italian League. Previously from Bucknell University, NFL, Europe, and sports, Sky Sports Analysis, color analysis. Currently NFL analyst on NFL, on ESPN, formerly of the NFL. Born in Pittsburgh by way of Long Island. Joining us right now is legendary Mr. Brian Baldinger. Come on into the chat, sir.
Guys, thanks for having me, man. I mean, I think we're all being pretty well entertained here today as I put my Baldy's Breakdown hat on right now.
There we go. I like that. There we go.
Whole outfit together here. I'm sitting here at the NFL Network. We got big draft parties we're on today, kind of previewing some of the stuff. But obviously, we're seeing we're seeing the trades, we're seeing the surprise picks, we're seeing the great. This was not a deep draft of star players, but I think we've seen the top 16 star players in this draft already off of the board.
Yeah, they're starting to fly off the board, Baldy. Yeah. We appreciate you hopping on. And the New York Jets just selected Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, the tight end. Obviously, they selected Mason Taylor last year in the draft. Your thoughts here?
I think Muji right here was just looking at the next best player available. He was the best tight end by far, Rick. We saw him at the Combine. He put on a show at the Combine. He knew he was going to put on a show, running that 4.39, jumping the way that he did, bench pressing the way that he did. It just verified a lot of the stuff we saw on tape this year. Once Terrence Ferguson left Oregon, it was his show. Once the receivers went down, it was his show. And I think the Jets are just looking to put as many great football players on the field this year, regardless of position. You could have said, yeah, we got Mason Taylor. He's a great young talent, second-round pick at LSU this year. We know what his father did and accomplished in the league. But Kenyon Sadiq is too much of a talent to pass up. Most of the teams in this league right now, Rick, are playing 2 tight ends, 12 personnel. They'll have a chance to get both of them on the field at the same time and get maximum value for them.
Yeah, that could be a good equation there, especially with Geno Smith with the 12 personnel. Reuben Bain came off the board, the pick before that to Tampa Bay. And I don't know, when we look back in this draft 10 years from now, I feel like a lot of teams are going to have egg on their face. They may have overthought this Reuben Bain thing, but I think he lands in a great spot into Todd Bowles' defense. You got Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, if he can bounce back from injury. These are some explosive big athletes there up front on that defensive line.
They had to improve their pass rush, and I agree. When New Orleans passed on him, I was surprised. I thought he would be a natural fit. When I watched the national championship game, like we all did, I thought he was the best football player on the field. I've been down to spring training down at Miami with Mario coaching him, Cristobal coaching him up, and just watching Jason Taylor working these guys, both Bain and Mesidor, and the whole defensive line. I thought he got great training. I thought it showed up. I thought he's got a plan to defeat the run against the pass. I don't care, Rick. I know he's the outlier with the arm length, but I didn't see it being a problem with him being able to dip, rip, his violent hands that he has, getting his hands on guys, and just being able to shed blocks. Like, I saw everything that you want to see. If his arms were an inch longer, we wouldn't have this discussion at all. But I don't think that's what dropped him down. I think Todd Bowles knows what he wants. He knows what he needs. They need some heat off the edge in that division, getting after quarterbacks. And I think they got one of the better players in this draft.
Let me ask you about the Giants, Baldy. How do you feel about what the Giants did so far in this first round?
It's hard to complain. I mean, there's not a person out there that doesn't recognize the talent that Arvell Reese has. I thought that Matt Patricia did a great job of using him, where he was an off-the-ball inside linebacker in their five-man front, their bear look. He was an edge rusher. He was a spy against certain quarterbacks. And if you add Arvell Reese to Brian Burns and to Abdul Carter and possibly Kayvon Thibodeau, and any defensive tackles that they add, because they're going to add some, you've got a bunch of guys that can hunt quarterbacks up. And you've got speed and athletic ability now with Abdul, with Burnsy, all right, with Thibodeau, and now with Arvell Reese. So that was, I didn't see how they could pass him up. Boost's question, did you like Sonny Styles? Did you Arvell Reese? It was, Styles went 2 picks later to Washington, so they'll play against each other in those NFC East games. But then to get Marinoa right now, and when I watched him, Rick, I thought he was a good tackle. When I talked to personnel directors around the league, he was a good tackle, well coached, but he looks like a Pro Bowl offensive guard. And I have a feeling the Giants are going to kick him inside, at least to start with, and let him go. Because I just think his power and his size and, his hands, like, I thought that could be a Pro Bowl guard, just the way we saw Zach Martin, the way we've seen Quentin Nelson go from tackle to Pro Bowl guard and all-pro guard in this league. I feel like that's what Marinoa might do.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment as well. That's a big weakness there for the Giants' offensive line, which was vastly improved. And I like Marcus Mabeau in that utility role. He can step in as swingman tackle, step in at guard. We got 2 against the grain picks here that came off the board, Baldy. We'll take them. We'll group them together because I think a lot of people thought maybe in the back end of the first round, maybe early second round, but Detroit Lions go offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson. The Detroit's been known to go against the grain with their selections. Some people thought it would have been Monroe Freeling here. And then Caleb Banks from Florida, the defensive tackle to the Minnesota Vikings. Your thoughts?
Well, Blake Miller is an easy study. He started every game at Clemson. The only question I had, honestly, Rick, was when you play 4 years in every game that he did, 49-something games, like, how much better can he get? But he's got all the ability, to come in as a freshman and play at Clemson at that level and play every game, stay healthy. Detroit has to rebuild their offensive line. It's really a question of your taste. If you like Monroe Freeling and the upside, I didn't like the fact that he only played 1 year at Georgia. Probably should have stayed, but I like the player and how many games he's played. Caleb Banks is a guy that could not stay healthy at Florida. Everybody recognized his size, his measurables, his overall power, and if he could just stay healthy and stay on the field, you might have a real monster. Minnesota plays a different style of defense with Brian Flores. They got rid of Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, guys that did not work out there after they signed him in free agency. They need to start building the middle of this defense up. They're going to lose Harrison Smith. They lose their 2 defensive tackles. They got to build the middle of this defense up. And you can't just rely on the blitz looks that Brian Flores has. Sometimes you just got to come after a team with 4 guys, and you got to win with 4. And I feel like Caleb Banks might be the start of being able to do that for the Vikings.
Yeah, very interesting picks. You know, we mentioned Monroe Freeling. The Philadelphia Eagles have traded with the Dallas Cowboys. You don't see that too often, your old team. But the Eagles now, the Panthers currently on the clock. Panthers picking right behind them at 20. Is this a offensive lineman, a safety, a wide receiver? Where could the Eagles be looking to go here, do you think?
They have a real need, Rick, at safety, and Dylan Thieneman is there. And I thought the Cowboys would be crazy to turn him down. I think they needed all the help on defense they could get. This is a 3-year starter at Oregon. He's a great player. And if you look at the roster of the Eagles, I was just on a Philadelphia radio station yesterday, and I said, look, this is the weakest position on the whole team. And they have not been able to draft safeties. Now, you know, Brian Dawkins was a second-round pick, Hall of Fame player. Like, that's easy. But honestly, they have spent number one picks on corners, we've seen recently, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. I feel like safety is a position of need for the Eagles. Now, you could go Monroe Freeling here, and you could say, okay, we'll give him a year. Lane Johnson possibly retires next year. Maybe we'll have a guy ready with a new offensive line coach and Chris Cooper. But I feel like this is going to be a safety thing. I mean, I think they wanted to take him away from potentially Dallas getting him.
Man, that's a very uncharacteristic pick for the Eagles, but it is the need. I know they lost both of their starting safeties, Reed Blankenship and the Canadian Brown. Sidney Brown. So Thieneman would fit a need. I thought even the Vikings may also consider a safety. They go Caleb Banks. What's your thoughts on Ty Simpson, Baldy, with Matthew Stafford, maybe at the twilight of his career? I thought the Rams might go for, a contributor, make a last run with Stafford, but they have their eyes on the future here.
Matt Stafford might not like to pick. We've seen that before, but it's not going to matter. He's the MVP. He's got nothing to worry about. The only question I ever had about Ty was his 15 starts this year. He backed up Jalen Milroe for 2 years. He gets his chance to play. In his 15 starts, he did get banged up, had some games where he wasn't very good, SEC championship game, whatever. But, he does throw the ball with great anticipation. I'm sure Sean McVay is saying we don't have to play him. Maybe, I don't believe quarterbacks get better by watching and sitting, but maybe he can learn a lot watching Matt Stafford play, watching the practice habits, just the way, say, Patrick Mahomes did behind Alex Smith for a year, and they got a chance to take off. I think there's a natural there. I don't know how long, Matt Stafford could keep going. He played all 20 games last year, played great, was the MVP. There's no slowdown in any of his game, but maybe he sits for 2 years. But I think they're looking at the heir apparent right there to Matt Stafford.
All right, well, Eagles are on the clock. We'll keep you here, get your reaction for that selection, and we'll let you go. I know you're very busy. Monroe Freeling did just indeed come off the board to the Carolina Panthers. A nice protection piece there for Bryce Young. And we're hearing in the chat room the Eagles could be looking at Mekhi Lemon out of USC. So maybe a little bit of foreshadowing with the A.J. Brown trade. Lemon, I thought, would go much earlier than that. So maybe wide receiver still a possibility as well. We'll get official confirmation here in just a moment. Could be Dylan Thieneman, could be Mekhi Lemon. It won't be Monroe Freeling to the Carolina Panthers.
No, but look, I mean, Icky got hurt last year, coming back from a major knee injury. He wasn't playing well when he was there. They're trying to do the best they can to support Bryce Young, who has steadily improved. Got him to the playoffs last year, helped win a division a year ago. Like, keep that line as strong as you possibly can. They've been adding pieces every year around him. And so Monroe Freeling, 1-year player at Georgia, but got all the ability in the world, only 21 years old, is going to get stronger and bigger. And so they're really banking on the fact that they can coach him up, that he's going to get stronger, that he's going to develop, and maybe into a frontline player opposite of Penei Sewell.
And here we go. The Eagles pick is in. And there he goes. Off the board, Mekhi Lemon.
There you go.
So there we are. You made the prediction, and it came true. And like you said, foreshadowing. So with the AJ thing going on, and they're moving him to possibly the Patriots. What do you got to say about that, Baldy? Let's get some reaction from you on that pick for the Eagles.
I think that Jalen Hurts will love it. Look, Devontae Smith's going to be the number one wide receiver. AJ will not be there. That's what all the moves in the offseason have been about. Picking up a receiver from Green Bay that knows the system. Picking up Hollywood Brown. They've got depth at the position right now. And this is all in the coordination to get the very best out of Jalen Hurts. The passing game has to pick up. It has to get better. Everybody in Philadelphia knows it. They got another new offense coordinator there. Jalen's under the gun right now. He's under the spotlight in Philadelphia, despite trips to the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl MVP, and everything that he's done. A nice, shiny one-loss record. But Jalen Hurts has to improve as a passer, and the passing game has to improve. And so this is a guy that certainly can beat man coverage, as tough as can be. They got two guys that are fearless in the middle of the field, in Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon. And so hopefully Jalen Hurts will be as fearless throwing the ball to these guys in this new offense of theirs.
Well, I know that they said that he's likes to throw to the outsides, and there's a deficit in throwing in the middle of the field. This kind of a guy is going to force him to throw in the middle of the field because he's has a little bit more of a slot skill set. So, yeah, I mean, what were you going to say about that, Rick?
Yeah, no, inside-outside versatility. To Baldy's point, two physical wide receivers. And, times they are changing in Philadelphia. This is going to be a revamped wide receiving core, and maybe for the better. Well, Baldy, I know you're busy, man. We appreciate the time you here jumping on and making the rounds, and we're looking forward to catching up with you. I know you got a lot of NFL Network coverage to attend to. Anything else you got working on that you want to tell the people at home about?
I'll be on tomorrow on a pre-draft show here in L.A. with Steve Weiss and Mike Garofalo. We're going to be talking about some of the things we just talked about just now, some of the surprises that we're seeing, and then just sort of, previewing. I think the strength of this draft is going to be in the second and third rounds. I think tomorrow is going to be really, really interesting to see what happens and some of these inside linebackers and, some of these other, safeties out there that only one safety to this point kind of surprised. But, the guys that don't make it into the first round, we're going to be talking about them leading into the second round where you can get real good value right now. And the teams that have multiple picks in the second round, like the Jets, this could be a lot of fun. The Dolphins, multiple picks. It's going to be fun for some of these teams tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you, Baldy, for coming on, and make sure you check him out tomorrow morning. And also make sure you get your gear, Baldy's Breakdown.
Yeah, check it out. Baldy'sBreakdowns.com. Yeah, get on the swag right here. Become an official follower. You can't go wrong. I've been breaking down every pick until we came on here. So I'm probably going to break down Mekhi Lemon for the Eagle fans right now. Make them happy, at least temporarily, Rick. You know what that fan base is all about.
That's right.
Love it. All right, Baldy, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, that was a fascinating segment. A lot of great insight back to back.
Yeah.
Ryan Baldinger, Howard Balzer. It's a can't stop, won't stop situation.
They're telling me.
Man, oh man, some surprising picks. I didn't get a chance to talk about Ruben Bain. I guess I did, but I just really like this pick. I think this is going to be the steal of the first round. And to Baldy's point, the 12 personnel, 13 personnel, you're seeing more teams do that. And I think that could be a recipe for success for Geno Smith with Sadiq. You got Mason Taylor. Obviously, Garrett Wilson can stretch the field, so they upgrade their offense. Blake Miller, listen, Detroit identifies their types. And if it was any other team, I might question it a little bit more. But Detroit has gone against the grain, and they've done very well in doing that. And then Caleb Banks, I guess the injury concern is not an issue for the Minnesota Vikings. I thought he would be hanging out there on the second round. One of those guys we would be talking about. Very, very intriguing pick. And then Monroe Freeland goes 19 to the Panthers. Some people had pegged him for the top 10, and we just mentioned Mekhi Lemon. All right, let's reset. We'll take a quick commercial break. I know Russ Landy will be joining us in just a moment or a little while to join us for the back end stretch of the first round. We're 20 picks in with about a dozen picks to go. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be back right after this.
Pull up and hunker down. Rick Serritella of All Access Football here. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. For the past 25 years, we've been bringing you the names you need to know with independent scouting analysis on location across the nation with boots on the ground coverage from training camp to in-season visits, the All-Star Game circuit, and Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine, plus the Pro Day trails and more, capturing the path to the draft with snapshots of hundreds of NFL draft prospects. Be sure to visit allaccessfootball.com for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and subscribe right now to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible featuring nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, our exclusive insider intel, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft. Become a disciple today and visit allaccessfootball.com. The NFL Draft Bible, the Bible of the draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Now back to the 2026 NFL Draft. Rick Serritella here for All Access Football. It's not too late to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible, jam-packed with nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, insider intel on character, medical, and background reports, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft, plus the NFL International Pathway Program prospects. We got it all covered in the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating 25 years of independent scouting analysis. Follow along in all the action. Be the most prepared person in the room with the most accurate projections available on the planet. Go get your copy now over at allaccessfootball.com. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you for your support of independent media. Now back to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Hey, Rick Serritella here for allaccessfootball.com. Thanks for watching our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Just a quick programming reminder, the All Access Football Draft Watch show airs every Saturday morning live at 10 a.m. Eastern with yours truly, along with my co-host, Russ Landy, who brings 30 years of NFL, CFL, and XFL scouting experience. Each and every week, we count you down with hard-hitting analysis, the prospects, the names you need to know. The countdown is on. Destination Washington, D.C. begins now. Make sure you tune in every Saturday morning, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, as we count you down to the nation's capital for the 2027 NFL Draft. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002. It's what we do. Make sure you follow along with the NFL Draft Bible, the official Bible of the Draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. Now, back to our 2026 live stream coverage of the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. Buckle up!
Hey. Back at it again. What's going on, my man, Rick? 12 picks. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
That was just outstanding back-to-back segments with Howard Balzer, Brian Baldinger breaking it down. We'll have Russ Landy here joining us for the back-end stretch of the first round. While we were gone, the Pittsburgh Steelers did a Steeler kind of thing to do.
Yes,
They took offensive tackle Max Ehonecker is how you say it. Ehonecker in the pronunciation of the Draft Bible. And this young man, let me just tell you about his backstory because it's one of the most fascinating of the draft. He moved to the United States from Nigeria at the age of 13. He was a soccer player, and his high school team, a lot of people have this nugget confused. His high school, he didn't play football in high school because the team did not have a high school football team. So he actually did not even begin playing organized football until the age of 21 when he landed at Los Angeles Junior College. Okay. And then he transferred to Arizona State. And this is a mean mugging, tenacious, athletic, big bodied, very stout pass protector, right? I think he's a true right tackle. We'll see how the Steelers plan to implement him, but his footwork is outstanding. Obviously, with the soccer background, little high-waisted, Big Law, right? So that run game, he struggles a little bit getting low. He has to kind of work on that a little bit more, but very stellar footwork, twitchy guy, phenomenal athlete, plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he just fits the Steelers' DNA and the mold perfectly for their identity.
Freaky athlete with that kind of size. Whenever you talk about soccer in their background, I don't care who it is. I don't care what sport. If they're playing another sport and they have a lot of soccer in their background, beware, because that means they know how to move their body. But we got another pick coming in here. The Chargers are on the clock. And I like that pick for them. Hakeem Mesidor from Miami, Ruben Bain's running mate. Some people said that this guy was probably the best technician off the edge when it comes to hand placement, footwork, coming off the edge. What did you think about that?
Well, I know our scout, residential scout here at the NFL Draft Bible, Dom Ambrose, will be very happy. He actually preferred Mesidor to Bain. While I wouldn't get that carried away with his talents, our guy Russ Landy, who's going to join us here later on in the show, was all over this on Saturday's Draft Watch show. He said the Chargers were going to go pass rusher. They may actually even be looking up to trade a pass rusher, and they get one. They get a plug and play one that's polished. The ceiling is not going to be as high with Mesidor, who is 25 years old, but you look at the production: 63 tackles, 17 and a half tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks, and 4 forced fumbles this past season, 35 and a half sacks for his career, Big Law. So he's done it. He's done it at a big time level. Began his career at West Virginia and was all ACC first time this past season. So, this is the guy that's going to get physical. He's going to get after it. He's a hand in the dirt type of defensive end. And, San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers, that is, they needed to get better against the pass. So Mesidor fits the need, and kudos to Russ Landy, who predicted this one.
Very good job by him, of course. It looks like there could be a run on DBs. There's a lot of good DBs left. I know Jamal McCoy with the injury concern. He's still on the board. You got Dylan, the safety from Oregon. You got Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. You got Avion Terrell. It could be a run on some defensive backs coming up here, but a lot of
Jamar McCoy from Tennessee is also still on the board.
That's right. And I know there are injury concerns with him, but anything else on him as far as those injury concerns is it a truly legit, or is it more smoke and mirrors? Seems like it may be a little legit because he is actually falling. These teams are like FBI. They find out everything about you no matter what.
Yeah, there's some concern. He came out and had a phenomenal pro day, but I guess in the medical evaluation, there is concern that he may need a second surgery on that ACL that he suffered back in last January, that is. And so, I've stated this on the Draft Watch show. When we hit NFL Week 1 Sunday, it will have been 681 days since the last time a Jamar McCoy suited up. Now, Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. They've never been one to be shy about rolling the dice on the upside. And McCoy, talent-wise, you could state a case. He is one of those top 10 or dozen prospects in the draft. How comfortable is your medical staff with that injury is going to be the ultimate determining factor. But you're right. There has not been a lot of defensive backs. I thought we would see potentially 3 safeties in the first round. You mentioned Dylan Thieneman, Emmanuel McNeil Freeman from Toledo. Caleb Downs already off the board. We have not seen 3 safeties go in the first round in nearly a decade. The last time it happened was the 2017 NFL draft class, where I think Jamal Adams was a top 5 selection. But just looking at my mock draft in terms of players who are still on the board, Jamard McCoy, who I had going to the Cowboys at 12 in the book before the latest report came out with the potential of a second surgery, he is the last one. Otherwise, my top 17, we're on pick 22. My top 17 guys are off the board in the mock. In terms of value, I love Lee Hunter, who's the number 13th value on my big board. I also like his Texas Tech running mate, Jacob Rodriguez, who would also be an excellent fit for the Cowboys here at 23. I like him going to the Chicago Bears at 25. I saw Will Donahue in the chat room. He thinks the New England Patriots should select Jacob Rodriguez. So I'm curious to see where that young man is going to land. And then where does the rest of these edge rushers, T.J. Parker, Zion Young, Keldrick Falk, R. Mason Thomas, Cassius Howell. There's a lot of edge rushers here that I think could be hearing their name called late in the first round. And we have yet to see a defensive tackle. Will it be Caden McDonald from Ohio State? Will it be Peter Woods from Clemson? I mentioned Lee Hunter. And now, with the wide receivers, I thought Denzel Boston was going to be the replacement for A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, but I did not expect them to have an opportunity to nab a Mekhi Lemon. And so I think he's going to be a dynamic talent in that Eagles offense. A little bit of inside-outside versatility there. You're talking about a player who's very similar to an Amon-Ra St. Brown when it comes to Mekhi Lemon and his fit in Philadelphia. One guy who I think you mentioned secondary could sneak in on the back end, Chris Johnson from San Diego State, the cornerback there, who I believe is the second best cornerback in this draft when you do factor in the Jamard McCoy injury. And so
Mekhi Lawrence. There we go.
Malachi Lawrence. Wow, that is really high for a Malachi Lawrence.
Wow.
Explosive edge rusher who can get after the quarterback. Very raw talent, still developing, needs to really expand his pass rush repertoire. He wins with a lot of athleticism and agility right now, and isn't too stout against the run. So again, Dallas looking to upgrade their pass rush. They've got them guy. They got that in Malachi Lawrence. However, I can't envision him being able to play more than 20 to 25 snaps as a rookie there for the Cowboys. So a little bit questionable just when you factor in T.J. Parker, Cassius Howell, R. Mason Thomas, all these edge rushers that we just alluded to, Keldrick Falk, Zion Young. These are all players that I had higher rated than Malachi Lawrence. And listen, there was a lot of buzz on Lawrence leading up to the draft, and I knew he would ascend up. I saw him as a potential top 50 selection. I did not envision him as the 23rd overall pick of the draft.
Well, I had the feeling that there was going to be 7 to 8 defensive ends taken, in the first round anyway. But to see Lawrence go this high is, I guess it could be considered questionable. But the Cowboys, maybe they felt comfortable with picking, their safety for the future, Caleb Downs, and maybe they feel like this pick could be a little bit more of a developmental pick. The guy is explosive, and they did have to never replace DeMarcus Lawrence as well. So maybe this guy could be a DeMarcus Lawrence replacement of the future.
Well, you look at the measurements: 6'4" and 3/8 inches, 253 pounds, 33 and 5/8 inch arms is what I think the Cowboys like here is the length. And then you factor in the 4.52 40-yard dash with a 159 10-yard split, 40-inch vertical and 10-10 broad jump. So the athleticism, as we alluded to, is through the roof. But again, really not a very good run defender, can get washed out against power. Does a nice job of converting speed to power, has a bull rush in his repertoire, chops, swipes, rips, inside counters, it says here. But again, more of a developmental guy than a first round pick. But like Howard was talking about, really in this draft, there's really 10 or 12 true first round talents. And then beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So Dallas has clearly identified something here that they liked. I think it's the length. I think it's the athleticism. And I think it's the upside. And he's not as ready as a TJ Parker to step in and be that kind of player. But in the long run, he may be better than a TJ Parker or a Cassius Howell. I didn't see it that way. Howell was a dominant force on a weekly basis playing in the SEC. Malachi Lawrence, not so much. But, this has been a very unorthodox first round, especially with these selections in the teens and now into the early 20s. And suddenly the Cleveland Browns are back on the clock. They just keep accumulating picks. And they took Spencer Fano earlier in the draft. Do they look now to add a weapon? Could a Omar Cooper Jr.? We mentioned Denzel Boston. Could they come into play? Clearly, the quarterbacks there do need some targets to throw to.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see who they pick. But, those – you talk about unconventional. This has truly been an unconventional. Usually you would think you would see quarterbacks go early. You'd see offensive tackles go early. Then you see a lot of defensive ends go early. Then you see some wide receivers go, cornerbacks. But, this talent pool was very different, very unique this year. And, and this draft is showing you that.
Yeah, just looking at the overall big board right now, Lee Hunter, number 13 on my board, is still available. Jermad McCoy, 15. Jacob Rodriguez, 18. Chris Bell. I mean, we've seen so many of these injury guys.
Yeah.
Casey Concepcion, our guy Will Donahue, is saying
on top of it.
in the chat room. So, man, that, to me, a lot of people vary on opinions on Concepcion in terms of what he truly is at the next level. Is he a wide receiver 2? Is he a wide receiver 3? Is he more of a gadget guy due to his elusiveness, his ability to create in space? He does a lot of his damage on end arounds and reverses and bubble screens. But, that's the type of talent. They need some juice in that offense. The Cleveland Browns do. So this is another weapon for them to work with, and another key cog. They added Harold Fannin, the tight end there, that made some plays for them. They do have Isaiah Bond. Remember, they signed in training camp after his legal issue, and he came on. He showed some ability. So, a Bond can take the top off of the defense. Concepcion is speedy and elusive. And you also got Jerry Jeudy there in the mix. So Cleveland, not a stellar group of wideouts, but they're building upon it.
Yep, there he goes. My man, William, you're on it, brother. He called it. Casey Concepcion going out of Texas A&M, going to the Browns, 24th pick overall. Gadget. You called him, seems like a little bit more of a gadget player, but they still
5'11" and 5'8", 196 pounds. Did not test. We saw more athletes and players not test leading up the draft than any draft I ever covered in the 25 years of doing this. The North Carolina State transfer, he had, like it says here, he's lined up even in the backfield as running back, can also return kicks, can be a punt returner. So he's got some special teams value there. Now, he did have 7 drops this past season, right? So if you're looking for a concern on KC Concepcion, it is those drops. But he is a red zone weapon, and he's a playmaker. So he could play inside, outside, running back, punt return, kick return. and a guy you can move around. 61 catches, 919 yards, 15.1 average, 9 touchdowns this past season. He carried the ball 10 times for 75 yards, had another rushing touchdown, and over 2,000 career receiving yards, over 400 career rushing yards, and 28 career touchdowns. So certainly KC Concepcion, no stranger to finding his way to the end zone.
So after picking up Spencer Fano, the offensive lineman, they get themselves an offensive weapon to go with that. So working on the offensive side of the ball, the Browns trying to build that way. You know, maybe this kid turns out to be somewhat of a Debo, you know, a smaller version or a slimmer version of Debo Samuels, you know, and the kid can be kind of a do-it-all kind of a player for the Browns. And, you know, if you saw the Browns, they need weapons. You know, there's no doubt about that. That was something that was apparent when you watched them play. They needed to be able to get their quarterbacks, get the ball out in space and get their quarterbacks more weapons. And, you know, they were such a different team when Judkins was on the field. Then when he was out, you could see a real deficit when it came to talent on the offensive side of the ball.
You know, I'm curious to see what the Chicago Bears are going to do here at 25. And as much as I like Jacob Rodriguez, this team has a lot of needs. And some of the players available to them on the board, I don't think they thought would be here. Now, they do need an edge rusher, so I think a Keldrick Falk or TJ Parker could be in play here. Dylan Thiedemann, still on the board, also would not be a bad fit. And they need to get better against the run. So even a Caden McDonald out of Ohio State could be the first defensive tackle off of the board. And the Bears, you know, we had this conversation with Howard Balzer earlier in the show. The game is won inside the trenches. Ryan Poles has made a conscious effort building up the offensive line. Now he has an opportunity to build up the defensive line. Plugging in a beefy Caden McDonald here would make a lot of sense. It would open up a lot of opportunities on the defensive side of the ball, but it looks like they may have gone in a different direction. We got Will tipping us the picks here. Go ahead, Big Law.
Well, you said Will tipping us a picture. He's saying Dylan. The safety out of Oregon. That would be a pick. I mean, you're on fire right now, William. So you know, we may have to go and send us some lotto numbers while you're at it, you know, so we can go and put some numbers in tomorrow and see if we can use some of that luck. But I can see him going to the Bears as well. Like you said, the Bears, you know, they need, you know, they have a lot of holes to fill. They need, you know, just an infusion of talent. The quarterback, their quarterback finally showing out, you know, showing some of his talent. He still has some ways to go, but he still has that big playability. And the Bears had that turnaround year. A lot of those fans were looking for. And it looks like we may have someone else jumping in. Our buddy, our friend.
Well, hold on a second. Let me just comment on Thieneman because the Bears, they signed Cam Lewis during the offseason from Buffalo. They signed Kobe Bryant from Seattle, 2 safeties. So now they go into the draft pool and add additional depth at the safety position and attempt to build up that secondary. Now, they got some nice young pieces at the cornerback position in Tyreek Stevenson, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon. So now you plug in Dylan Thieneman, and suddenly the back end is a strong point for the Chicago Bears. Now, I know we have our next guest on the green room ready to join us here in just a second. We're going to take a quick, just a 1-minute quick commercial break, reset, and come back with my co-host of the All Access Football Daily Show. He'll join us right after this quick commercial break. Where did you go on me, guys? We'll be right back after.
Serritella here for All Access Football. It's not too late to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible, jam-packed with nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, insider intel on character, medical, and background reports, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft, plus the NFL International Pathway Program prospects. We got it all covered in the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating 25 years of independent scouting analysis. Follow along and all the action. Be the most prepared person in the room with the most accurate projections available on the planet. Go get your copy now over at allaccessfootball.com, your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you for your support of independent media. Now back to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft.
And we're back. And we got a trade.
We do have a trade. And
looks like Houston has moved up to the 26th spot and has traded up with Buffalo. So Buffalo moves up 2 spots, and we'll talk about who they're going to identify. Meanwhile, the Dylan Thieneman pick has gone official with the Chicago Bears. We just talked about with Brian Baldinger earlier what he brings to the table, somebody who could step up, stuff the run, also good in coverage, 6 foot, 201 pounds, ran a 4.35 40-yard dash, 1.52 10-yard split with a 41-inch vertical, 10'5" broad jump. Obviously very productive, a tackle machine, had over 100 tackles both at Purdue and Oregon, I believe, this past year. I don't have that in front of me. So
I mean, he's coming up here looking like Don Johnson, brother. Got on his cool suit, got on the glasses. Look at the aviators, shining, gleaming, big watch, brown shoes.
Thieneman's ready for the big time here.
I'm telling you, man. He's ready for the big city of Chicago. Okay. Look at him. He's ready for it, man. Okay.
Don't let him outside in downtown Pittsburgh. We don't want you to get into trouble now, Dylan.
I'm telling you. Look at it. Got his strut. Okay. Yes, sir. But he was an animal. He was so athletic out there. You could do so much with him. They just talked about how Chicago uses a lot of 3 safety look and what they do, which a lot of teams, especially in college, have used the 3 safety look. But the safeties are all versatile in what they can do as far as coverage, blitzing, playing in the box, and he's one of those guys, you know. But his measurables are off the charts as a safety as well.
Well, I'm looking at Buffalo and trying to think. You know, I had them taking Caden McDonald out of Ohio State in my mock draft. Obviously, there's a need there to get better against the run. And if you plug in McDonald on that defensive line, Deone Walker was phenomenal against the run. If you plug a Caden McDonald next to him and then you have Ed Oliver as a moving type of piece there, that could be a tremendous fit for the Buffalo Bills. Now, Joe Brady's taking over now as the head coach. They did trade for DJ Moore to go out and be their number 1 target. Khalil Shakir, obviously a competent wide receiver, but not much depth behind that. Kevin Coleman, Keon Coleman, I know like we don't want to label him a bust just yet, but I really don't see him breaking through to the other side. I wonder if they could even consider like an Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, the wide receiver, with his selection.
Yeah, that's I'm surprised that he's still on there as Dylan as well. You know, I think that the Texans pick is in as well. I tell you, this 8-minute draft, this thing's going. It's just blazing on along here in this first round, and I think it's
this is going to go down as the fastest first round in the history of the NFL draft. I mean, we're on pick number 26, and it's only 10:30. I mean, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think we're going back. They may speed it up. They may take another minute off in the next couple of years.
I like it. I like how we're moving, and I like how we're rocking and rolling here. So, okay, so now I'm looking at the board. So the Texans now have pick 26 and 28. So Buffalo has traded out entirely. They're not even going to make a first-round selection. So the Houston Texans may be eyeing a Caden McDonald. That could be a potential fit for the Texans as well. Maybe they prefer a Peter Woods out of Clemson. I thought it was pretty interesting that the report came out. If Cincinnati were to had stayed put at number 10 and not trade for Dexter Lawrence, reports are they would have taken a defensive tackle such as a Peter Woods. But Houston goes the other way, and they go on the offensive line with a player that I really like in Kalen Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. What I find surprising is, Houston needs some offensive line help. They could have had one of these tackles still on the board, but they decided to go with a mauler, and Kalen Rutledge just gets after it. This guy is vicious. This guy is tough, rugged, can climb into the second level, can get down the line on pull blocks. He brings everything you want, prototypical size when it comes to the offensive guard position. And Big Law, we haven't seen teams value offensive guards, but smart teams do respect the guard position. And at number 26, I'm not mad. I mean, a lot of people didn't have Rutledge projected inside the first round, but I'm not mad at this pick at all. I think he's a plug-and-play starter for the next decade or so.
Was it a stretch in your opinion?
No, I don't think it's a stretch.
Okay.
He was a top 30, top 40 talent in the draft Bible. So I just think that he didn't get talked about a lot because he plays guard. And, he came in at 6'4", 316 pounds, ran a 5.05 40-yard dash with a 32.5-inch vert. Not bad for a 316-pounder. But, like I said, and plays with a mean streak, quick first step, sound footwork, lateral agility, can mirror defenders, excellent use of his lower body strength, turns his legs. Great report here in the Draft Bible. Also a leader that communicates pre-snap. He calls out reads, natural fit in gap schemes or run-heavy offenses, and just a very polished plug-and-play guard. I love everything about him. I talk about him being a bully, how athletic he is, climbing to the next level, how physical he is at the point of attack, how he can set the table for everything that you look for at the line of scrimmage. That is former NFL scout Bucky Brooks, one of Brian Baldinger's colleagues on the NFL Network. He also participated in the Senior Bowl and the first non-specialist player out of Georgia Tech to earn first-team All-American recognition since Shaq Mason back in the day in 2014. So originally began at Middle Tennessee, spent 2 seasons there, 3-star recruit, also played basketball and track in high school in addition to football. So Kalen Rutledge, big, mean, mugging mauler, but, man, there's some underlining athleticism there when you look at the background, when you look at the testing, when you look at the measurements. And now the Houston Texans, this is what C.J. Stroud needs to get right. He made, I thought, a regression last year. They need to keep him upright. And you've got Ariante Irsay manning the left tackle spot. They signed Braden Smith from the Colts to plug into the right tackle spot. And, Rutledge now could even be viewed as a potential center. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was saying. Could he play that center position with that athleticism, being able to move, and his explosiveness getting to the next level? Could he be a center?
It's very possible. They have Ed Ingram at one guard spot. They signed Wyatt Teller from Cleveland, so it's very possible they could look to plug a Kalen Rutledge right into that center position. But that's the kind of versatility and athleticism that he brings to the table. Somebody who can play all 3 spots, and the Texans are just going to have to figure out how he best fits the team. Now, remember, they picked up David Montgomery from the Detroit Lions to pair with Woody Marks there in the backfield. Marks was a excellent pass-catching weapon out of the backfield, and they obviously have some tremendous receiving talents in Nico Collins. We'll see what Tank Dell offers. They drafted Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel last year, so they have a little bit of a youth movement going on at the wide receiver corps. And, this is a remake offensive line. They're going to have at least probably 3 projected new starters now with the selection of Kalen Rutledge.
Keep him upright. Keep your quarterback upright. Name of the game.
So now the Dolphins are back on the clock, and they took Caden Proctor with their first round, or their first pick in the first round. And again, the theme here with Malik Willis coming to town is you want to make sure he has some protection, and that Dolphins offensive line, got a whole lot better now, especially I think with Proctor, who's going to, I think, start on the inside of Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson, probably start opposite of Jonas Saviana, and they've got Aaron Brewer there as their center. So, they do need a lot of other pieces on this offense. Obviously, the wide receiver cupboard is bare after parting ways with Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle no longer there. Suddenly, Malik Washington is the elder statements. They did sign a Tutu Atwell from the Rams, but both Washington and Atwell are more of jitterbug slasher type of slot threats. They did also sign Jalen Tolbert out of Dallas as another receiver, but Dolphins certainly wouldn't hurt if they took another receiver. They obviously need some pass rush help. Keldrick Falk is a name that's been kind of surfacing.
They picked up Chris Johnson. They just drafted Chris Johnson.
And so this is a pick I love. I had him going actually to at number 30 to the San Francisco 49ers. So Chris Johnson out of San Diego State is somebody we talked about on the Draft Watch show. And why don't we pop him up, Big Law, and get some reaction?
All right, let's bring him in. Coming to the stage now, 30 years plus of pro scouting experience, recruiting coordinator at UCLA, also scout with the LA Rams from 1994 to 1998, 4 years with the Browns as a scout, has held multiple executive roles in the XFL, CFL, and the Hub football camps, publisher at GM Junior, Scouting Draft Guide, former NFL Today correspondent, mentor at Sports Management Worldwide for football, GM, and scouting, the co-host of All Access Football Draft Watch Show, which is aired every Saturday here live at 10 a.m. Eastern. Please watch each week. Now, our special guest and analyst is our guy, Russ Landy, my friend. What's going on? The legendary, from Chicago, I might add.
That is true. What's going on, fellas? It sounds like it's been a fun first round.
Woo, man.
It's pretty crazy, man.
The bullets are flying, Russ. We're so happy to join us here and complete the trifecta. I'm not sure how much we can get you caught up with all the picks that we've been following.
I've been following them all. I just haven't been able to talk about them yet. It's been I've been getting texts from a million people asking what I think, and I'm loving some teams, and other teams I'm a little bit wondering. I'm loving what the Patriots just did with the Lomu tackle out of Utah.
Caleb Lomu out of Utah, another tackle off the board.
I know when I spoke to a few teams this year, they said that in their eyes, he and the other Utah tackle were the only 7s in the draft in terms of elite talents. So I think the Patriots might have got it right here, but I think it's been a great first round. I've really been enjoying it. I give a lot of credit to Minnesota for rolling the dice, because if Caleb Banks turns out and stays healthy, you're talking about a guy that, he reminds me so much of Richard Seymour, a guy that could be a 15-year star.
Wow.
It's a gamble, but there's so much talent there. I love that they were willing to roll the dice, because we all know that head coach, hey, they got no quarterback right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And he's shown some courage, saying we believe in the 2 quarterbacks we got, and we're going to find a way to make this defense good. So there's been a lot of good picks, some that make me scratch my head. But overall, it's been a really entertaining first round.
Is he a left or a right tackle?
I think Lomu can do either. I think he's athletic enough to play on either side. I think Fanu's a little bit better athletically, but this kid to me is an easy starting tackle in the NFL day one. I think this kid's got all the tools. I do think Fano's a better player, a little bit, but I think they're both in the old Ram scouting system that about half the teams use in terms of letters and numbers. He's an easy D70, which means top 10 type player, guy who starts day one as long as he's healthy. I love the pick for the Patriots. This kid upgrades that O-line immediately and puts pressure on their left tackle this year, who had all his ups and downs. Even though I think he's going to be the long-term tackle, I think this kid gives them a guy that can make him sort of either entrench himself or get replaced, or this kid will jump over and play right tackle.
Well, I know Mike Vrabel's been pretty adamant about wanting to maintain Will Campbell at left tackle. Now,
which makes sense.
Well, how long Mike Vrabel lasts in New England is another topic.
Whole different story. But I mean, Will Campbell's going to be the guy for this year. But now there's a little bit of a fallback in terms of
I think
right, and he could take over at left.
I think this is a move to compete with Morgan Moses, who really didn't live up to the contract that he signed last offseason. So I think Lomu will come in there, compete with Morgan Moses, or potentially this could have been a selection for the Philadelphia Eagles, because we do know the Eagles need offensive line, and there is a pending trade to be determined later on after June 1st. Could Caleb Lomu actually be flipped?
It's a possibility. Yeah, definitely a possibility. I don't know if they have to give up a first-round pick to go get the receiver. But yeah, if they're giving up something that high, Lomu may be a guy that the Eagles really want him. He's like I said, he's a D70 in my book. This kid's a starter day one. So whether it's the Patriots or whether he goes down to the Eagles, this kid's going to start and be a very good player early in his career, in my opinion.
You know, right before you jumped on, Russ, a player we talked about a lot on the Draft Watch show, and somebody that Jarrett Regal, our residential scout, was very high on and put on our radar, Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. I really like this pick. I think the Dolphins got it right here. And I like the boldness, again, of the new regime going outside of the Power Four conference with a little, in my book, not a questionable caliber of competition, because I saw what he did down there at the Senior Bowl, but maybe some other teams a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more leery, not the Dolphins.
No, I like the pick a lot. I mean, the reality is in today's NFL, long corners who can run have enormous value. I think this kid showed at San Diego State what he can do athletically. I think then he goes to the Senior Bowl and shows you what he can do against the top talent. So, yeah, I like the pick. I really think Miami, obviously, new quarterback, new head coach, new GM. There's a little bit of a time to get it right in terms of Willis is going to get a little time. They don't have to be great overall this year. Chris Johnson, San Diego State's going to be a big jump first year. So this year there'll probably be some ups and downs. But you're talking next year, 2027, he'll have a year under his feet. Willis will have a second year as a starter down there. I think everything's going to start to go in the right direction. I like the pick. I think this kid's talent and upside is huge.
Well, you're looking at 8 of the last 10 draft picks in this first round have been traded. Only 2 teams have stand pat. So far, the Seahawks are at 32. They obviously they haven't traded out of their position yet. And of course, Dylan Thingen, the safety out of Oregon, the Bears, they stood pat at 25 as well. But out of that, from the last 10, 8 out of the 10, there have been a lot of movement, a lot of teams coming up.
It makes a lot of sense, because I'll tell you this. I spoke to not a ton, but a handful of teams this year in recent weeks. And what they said was most years there's about 17 to 19 players that most teams have on their board rated as first rounders. The people I spoke to said this year it's more like 11 to 13. So if you're in that bottom 10 to 15 in the first round and you only have one guy left and you're 7 or 8 picks away, you have one guy left you think is a first rounder, and you have a team wanting to trade up, you're going to be more willing to get out of there, because the odds of you getting your guy are low. So they'll jump in because the guy they want is probably going to be there. So it makes a lot of sense that there's been so many trades. I think Rick and I talked about sort of guesstimating the number, and I think we both said that this is probably going to be more trades than in recent years, because of the fall off of talent is so great once you get past about that 12 to 14 number.
There we go. So we just had a pick with the Chiefs. They just picked first defensive tackle, Peter Woods from Clemson, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. What a freaking pick to put beside Chris Jones.
And hopefully he'll be able to learn from Jones, because we know Woods has the talent. You put him with Jones, they have some young edge guys. This gives them a chance to all of a sudden upgrade that defensive line, which to me has been a little too inconsistent in recent years. Now the thing is, can they go find some offensive linemen? Because that offensive line has not been good in recent years. They found the corner. They found the interior guy. They've got to upgrade that offensive line. If they can do that, then you're talking about a team that, in my opinion, can be right back in the mix, not only to get in the playoffs, but to win the division and challenge to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Kansas City's kind of missed on some of these tackles. You know, Josh Simmons last year didn't exactly pan out for them. We'll see how he bounces back from the injury there. You've also got Jalen Moore slotted at the right tackle spot. Not exactly world beaters there. So, yeah, Kansas City needs to upgrade the offensive line. And quite frankly, like, let's be honest, there was a lot of excitement with Xavier Worthy coming out, but he really hasn't produced. Rashee Rice has been good when he's eligible to play, but he's also in a slew of trouble or injuries. Who knows? I mean, this wide receiver core is really not very deep. So Kansas City, despite, you know, that dynasty kind of feeling just recent, a lot of holes on this team. And quite frankly, like, I would not be shocked if they come back and take a tight end on the second or third day. Eventually, they're going to have to pass the torch there from Travis Kelce. So Peter Woods now, you insert him, though, with Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Ashton Gillott out of Louisville actually showed some flashes last year as a rookie. So the defensive line is going to get a whole heck of a lot better. And I can't believe we're winding down now to the final three selections of the first round. New York Jets are back
on the clock. Yep.
On the clock. They took Kenyon Sadiq at 16, Russ, and David Bailey at 2. They got a chance now to add a third potential impact starter. What did you think of their first two selections?
Well, firstly, I like Bailey. I think they're basically saying we want, and I'm not saying sure thing in terms of who's going to be a definite better player, but I think they like the sure thing of position-wise. I think they're saying we want a definitive edge pass rusher in Bailey, whereas I think the Reese debate, and we had this the last time we spoke, is Reese may be a better upside guy, but he's more of a where do you fit him player, whereas you know what Bailey's going to do. Sadiq, to me, is a little bit of a mystery. We all know how good he could become. The question is, can they find somebody to get him the ball? And I think trading up, and it looks like they just took the Omar Cooper, the receiver out of Indiana. I think what you're seeing with these picks is, to me, A, they're finding a way to get some players on offense in terms of Cooper and Sadiq. And I think they feel a little bit of pressure. Last year was an awful year. The head coach survived. Is there some pressure that they have to at least get close to 500 this year, or else they may just wash everybody out of there? So I think trading back up, get a guy that they feel is another impact player in their eyes, to make sure they have him for this year to try to get back to winning, or at least get to 500. I can understand why they're doing it. I'm not saying it's going to be the right move, but I understand why the Jets are doing that. And let's be real. The Jets have been awful for about 15 years. So to expect them to turn around in one draft, I think, is unrealistic.
We had a player, someone in the chat is asking, do you think the Chiefs will get Tyreek Hill back?
I'd be very surprised if they got him. I mean, if they could get him for virtually nothing and low money, I think they'd consider it. But I think it would be, they'd have to feel comfortable going down that road again. I know that he was not traded because he wasn't talented enough. He wanted more money. I think that if he's willing to come in and sort of say, hey, I'll play for less money, I just want a chance to prove myself again, then maybe. But I think it's not a likely scenario.
Yeah, that's going to be tough with the Drew Rosenhaus agent representation. But I think that if Tyreek Hill can humble himself, it would make a lot of sense to do a one-year prove-it deal with Kansas City where he thrived, go back, light it up if you want to collect one more payday. But I want to go back to the Omar Cooper Jr. selection here for the Jets. It seems like, they've come to realize their fate. They don't have a franchise quarterback. So let's try to collect all the pieces this year and set up our quarterback next year, where we have 3 first-round picks in the draft. And you look at what they're doing here. You pair Omar Cooper Jr. with Garrett Wilson. Okay, you have 2 legitimate starting wideouts. Now you've got Mason Taylor to pair with Kenyon Sadiq. So when you run these 12 personnel packages, there's a lot of mismatches that can be had out there on the field. So Geno Smith will have a lot of underneath options, and now he has somebody who can stretch the field in Omar Cooper Jr. So the weaponry is there, something the Jets did not have just about 3 hours ago. And now suddenly this is going to be much more appealing, much more set up for success when they do go, indeed, which I'm convinced, select their quarterback of the future in next year's draft.
Well,
That's
it looks
a great
like.
point.
Oh, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to say it's a great point. I think it's both for the future, and I think they're hoping they can find a way, because the reality is a 2-win season. I don't care how well they're set up. Unlikely they're all going to survive. But if they can just have Geno get them the 5, 6, 7 wins, that might be enough to get them to Arch Manning or the kid from Texas Tech, and give them a chance to get that quarterback that can get them over the hump.
Well, the theme I saw was a lot of explosiveness with all 3 of these players. If you look at they got really fast and really explosive with these 3 players coming into the roster. So it'll be interesting to see. I know we got a draft pick coming in. What were you going to say, Rick?
No, the Tennessee Titans, I guess, just traded back into the first round, and we know they took Carnell Tate with the 4th overall selection, got Cam Ward a target, and you're seeing the theme here. Young quarterback, let's get a wide receiver to go with that. You wonder now where they're going to go here with their final selection. They traded for Jermaine Johnson in the offseason, but could probably still use some pass rush help. They traded away Tavondre Sweat as part of that package. You wonder if they may consider plugging a Caden McDonald next to a Jeffrey Simmons. And there's a whole bunch of talented linebackers still here on the board. I mean, I just can't believe Jacob Rodriguez is 2 picks away from not going in the first round.
That's your guy, brother. That's your guy. There's no doubt. How about you talk about the Jets going getting receiver, tight end? Could the Titans take Stowers here?
Oh,
and then they end up with the receiver, tight end.
They picked Kendrick Falk from Auburn.
Okay. Neither one of us is right. There you go.
Well, it makes sense. They need a pass rusher. Falk can come in and actually can set the edge against the run and the pass. Very well-rounded skill set there. And so now Tennessee pairs Keldrick Falk with Jermaine Johnson. They have a new starting pair of bookends with Jeffrey Simmons manning the middle. They also signed John Franklin Myers over from the Denver Broncos.
Really good veteran player, yeah.
3 new starting defensive linemen around Jeffrey Simmons. And don't forget one of my favorites in last year's draft, Olu Aladejo, who got injured very early in the season coming out of UCLA. But he's another one to keep an eye on. So Aladejo doesn't have to be rushed back from injury. You got Jermaine Johnson. Now you got Keldrick Falk.
Wow.
Yep, I think you make a great point. I think you're also seeing basically Tennessee saying, hey, this is for the long term. We're building this D-line. We're not worried about – we have a new head coach. We believe we have some confidence from ownership, so we don't have to panic. We're just going to do what we believe is the right thing. We're going to add some young talent along this defensive line.
So we're coming up on the last pick of the first round. It's just about to turn 11 p.m. Eastern here.
We're done.
What a treat. Now,
a little different than the old days.
Oh, man. This is phenomenal. Now, I will say I went a little against the grain in my mock draft with the Seattle Seahawks selection just because Kenneth Walker obviously departed to the Chiefs. Zach Charbonnet is coming off an injury. He has not exactly been durable throughout his career. The depth is thin beyond that. So could Jadarian Price from Notre Dame make it 2 running backs here in the first round?
I mean, is it possible? Yes. I don't think it's likely, but yes, it's possible that they go running back here. I don't think so. I think what you're going to see is I think you're looking at a team in Seattle that they're going to put value in explosiveness, and I think you're going to see either receiver,
Hometown kid.
or a defensive player that's got a twitch and explosion.
Well, they know how to pick these secondary players. So Traden Stukes comes to mind, maybe even a Colton Hood, who could be injected into that secondary where they've done so well in identifying talent. Or Jamard McCoy also still on the board.
That's an interesting one there too, because you know that the head coach and GM have complete job security. So do they roll the dice on a kid like McCoy, who could wash out of the league in a year, or could become an all-pro because he's long and linear, can run, and he's a top athlete? So he'd be a very interesting guy to roll the dice on here. If you just think back when they took the kid out of Illinois, I think it's Witherspoon is how it's pronounced. You talk about, there were a lot of questions about him when he came out. There were people wondering, was he too raw? Was he ever going to be a polished player? And now I think most people would say he's one of the most dynamic, explosive DBs in the league. Maybe they roll the dice again because they have no worries about job security. So they can take a chance on a guy like that who may medically not survive, who you wonder about his innate love of the game, but there's something there physically that might make you roll the dice.
Yeah. Barring injury, top 2, top 3 corner, in the entire draft pool, talent pool. And then, I was thinking, if they went Denzel Boston, they have the hometown kid, keep him there, give your quarterback another weapon to go on the other side of the animal you have on the other side of the field.
I wouldn't rule out R. Mason Thomas. You talk about speed, explosiveness, or even a Cassius Howell if they're looking to add some pass rush help. These are 2 very highly productive players. Did it in the SEC. Still sitting on the board. Real quick, Russ, Malachi Lawrence jumped off the board ahead of a lot of these pass rushers that we thought. To me, I thought that was maybe the furthest, if we want to call it a reach. I was just a little bit surprised considering some of the other caliber of players that were still there.
Agreed. I think they basically said we're willing to roll the dice on what he could be, not what he has been. I think there's no doubt physical tools wise, he's right up there with any of the players that were available to rush the passer. You didn't always see it in college. And I think they're basically saying, hey, we believe we can get it out of him on a down in, down out basis. So they're willing to roll the dice. Because I agree with you. If you just look at the body of work, the actual production, he's not up there with some of those other guys. But when you look at length, size, explosion, potential, he might be ahead of most of them. So I get the reason you take it. And hey, this is why A, people love the draft, and B, that's what scouting is, projecting a player. It's not how good were they their final year of college. It's how good are they going to be their third year in the NFL. So they may look at him and sort of like a Daniel Hunter, third defensive end at LSU, went in the 3rd round because he wasn't a full-time starter. And I think he turned out okay. So maybe this is a spot where they said, hey, we're willing to roll the dice because of what he could be, not what he has been.
Well, they added Malachi Lawrence, the Dallas Cowboys did. They added Caleb Downs. One last one I wanted to get in here. I wanted to get your opinion since you are there in Chicago. Did you like the selection of Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon?
I do. I mean, I thought him and the kid from Toledo, it was really sort of splitting hairs as to which one you like better. I think they both have a lot of potential for the range, the willingness to come up and hit, and the fact that they lost Byard. I think he fills a role for the Bears. I think the Bears team is, I don't think they're as deep as people think they are, but I do like the fact that they said, this is a versatile kid in our defense where we move guys around. The kid can run. He's long. So I get it. It makes a lot of sense. I will say the one other pick that hasn't been, at least I'm sure you guys talked about a ton, that I haven't gotten the same thing on, is to me the Rams taking Simpson. To me, slam dunk, great choice. Love it. Anytime you've got a quarterback and you can take one that you think can become a starter, it's a slam dunk because you're not going to be forced to play him. If he turns out to just be good, you're never going to be chasing a quarterback. Whereas teams like the Browns for many years, the Jaguars for many years, the Bears for many years were chasing a quarterback. So if you've got a good one, take a good one and hope he develops because it takes the pressure off the kid, takes the pressure off the organization. I love the move, and especially for an organization with a head coach and GM, they're not going anywhere. They can afford to let this kid sit for 2 years.
And there goes Price.
There goes your pick, Jadarian Price. Look at Rick finishing up, calling it the shot like Babe Ruth.
Yeah, going out on a high note here.
That's right.
On the draft
You may have only gotten 1 out of 32 right, but hey, you got the 32nd.
I got a few. On the board
in there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
It does. Yes, no question.
Where else are they going to turn to? And do you really want to wait on the come around and just get a leftover guy who essentially is going to be your starter? I mean, Jadarian Price is most likely going to start for the Seattle Seahawks this year.
Yeah, there's a good chance because Charbonnet is probably not going to be ready until probably 4 to 6 weeks in the season. So Price is going to have every opportunity to be the guy.
That's right.
I mean, you got Emmanuel Wilson and George Halani on the roster.
So I think it gives them a little bit of it. Also, they can go to sleep at night now. They know they've got a guy to be able to sort of fill in and be the guy, that he can be the guy from day one.
Cupboard was a little bare in the free agent pool as well. You're looking at trying to, get a running back, and probably an impact starter. Now they got one. They got a young one too.
Yep.
Well, to Russ's point, they have the job security, and when you're the defending Super Bowl champions, you can overreach, so to speak, for this is a luxury pick, right? Because I don't think anybody felt Jadarian Price was one of the top 32 overall players. This is addressing a need and maybe overdrafting a player, and you can justify it.
Well, and you also have to remember, you're talking about a draft where there's not a ton of premier players. So when you get into that bottom 10 to 15 of the first round, you're really looking at each team is going to have a flavor of the month for what they like. I think they look at this kid and they think he's probably going to be able to help us right away. They probably love his character and intangibles. And because of that, they feel it's a valuable pick. And when you look at what's still on the board, it makes sense because there's not a lot of other elite running backs. They probably didn't want to risk passing, and all of a sudden they're sitting 20 picks later trying to find anybody.
All right, well, I can't believe that brings us to the conclusion of the first round. What we'll do is take one more commercial break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. We'll get our final thoughts on the first round, and we'll look ahead at some of the players who are still on the board. Some very surprising prospects that we're going to get into. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the All Access Football Draft Watch show. We're going to take a quick break and then put a ribbon on day one of the 2026 NFL Draft.
Buckle up and hunker down. Rick Serritella of All Access Football here. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. For the past 25 years, we've been bringing you the names you need to know with independent scouting analysis on location across the nation with boots on the ground coverage from training camp to in-season visits, the All-Star Game circuit, and Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine, plus the Pro Day trails and more, capturing the path to the draft with snapshots of hundreds of NFL draft prospects. Be sure to visit allaccessfootball.com for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and subscribe right now to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible featuring nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, our exclusive insider intel, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft. Become a disciple today and visit allaccessfootball.com. The NFL Draft Bible, the Bible of the draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Now back to the 2026 NFL Draft. Rick Serritella here for All Access Football. It's not too late to get your copy of the official 2026 NFL Draft Bible, jam-packed with nearly 600 in-depth player evaluations, insider intel on character, medical, and background reports, plus a look ahead at the 2027 NFL Draft, plus the NFL International Pathway Program prospects. We got it all covered in the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating 25 years of independent scouting analysis. Follow along in all the action. Be the most prepared person in the room with the most accurate projections available on the planet. Go get your copy now over at allaccessfootball.com. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you for your support of independent media. Now back to our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Hey, Rick Serritella here for allaccessfootball.com. Thanks for watching our live stream coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft. Just a quick programming reminder, the All Access Football Draft Watch show airs every Saturday morning live at 10 a.m. Eastern with yours truly, along with my co-host, Russ Landy, who brings 30 years of NFL, CFL, and XFL scouting experience. Each and every week, we count you down with hard-hitting analysis, the prospects, the names you need to know. The countdown is on. Destination Washington, D.C. begins now. Make sure you tune in every Saturday morning, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, as we count you down to the nation's capital for the 2027 NFL Draft. Your home for year-round coverage of the NFL Draft and everything pigskin, bringing you the names you need to know first since 2002. It's what we do. Make sure you follow along with the NFL Draft Bible, the official Bible of the Draft, used by all 32 NFL teams. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. Now, back to our 2026 live stream coverage of the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. Buckle up!
Here we go, back at it again, guys. For our last segment of the
that was riveting, by the way. 3 hours of power.
I mean, it was amazing, and it went so fast. This is what I think the NFL is moving towards. I wouldn't be surprised if it got a little quicker, in the coming years. And I think the teams did a good job. We got to give shout out to the teams for getting their picks in and kept it rolling. And then, not to mention, as many trades that were made, they kept the thing moving, man.
What is the official number? Does anybody know in the chat how many trades went down in the first round? That was a lot of trades.
Well, I had 8 out of 10 on the last. Out of the last 10, 8 of them were trades, which is crazy.
One thing before we get to best available players, Russ, you were not with us for the selection of Ruben Bain, and I had mentioned that when we look back at this year's draft, I think a lot of teams are going to have egg on their face, and I like the fit with Todd Bowles in that defensive scheme, and a lot of people want to make a big deal about the arm length. Well, heck, good luck stopping the stunts with him and Vita Vea coming at you. I love this. And Kalijah Kancey, if he ever comes back from injury, I mean, you've got 3 big, athletic, explosive, violent defenders there on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the debate, and this is, I think, where NFL teams tried to figure out Bain is, I think a lot of teams view Bain as a guy who can be a good, solid starter, but a lot of them didn't feel he had the twitch and rare special athleticism to overcome the questions about his arm length. Because if you have arm length questions, you have to have a little twitch. I think teams felt he was a middle-of-the-road guy in terms of twitch. And that's why he goes where he did. I do think when you look at the rest of that team, Ashawn Robinson, you mentioned Vita, this is going to be a good fit because he doesn't have to be a dominant guy. He just has to be strong, fundamentally sound, consistent player position, and he's probably going to get 6 to 8 sacks a year, be a really good, solid, fundamental starting defensive end. And that's what they need. That's what they need. They need consistency. They need toughness, competitiveness. This kid has those things. He's a strong physical player. I think he's going to fit well in what they do there in Tampa Bay.
16 picks traded.
Wow.
Movement. Or
Half the first round.
Yeah, there you go.
Unbelievable.
Yep. It
All right,
points to the different boards after the first 7 or 8 picks.
Well, we'll be back. Just a little reminder, we'll be back streaming tomorrow and as well as day 3. We're going live for every single selection. So we appreciate everybody who tuned in along the way. All the chat room people, love the feedback and interaction. I hope we get even more livelier as the draft wears on. But let's take a look ahead at some of these potential day 2 players still sitting on the board. On the NFL Draft Bible big board, Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, sitting at 13. His counterpart, Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech at 18. Chris Bell from Louisville, obviously with the ACL injury, but we have him rated very high at number 19. Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh, the linebacker / safety at 20. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, our 21st rated player, the safety out of Toledo. And TJ Parker from Clemson also did not come off the board. That's probably the only players on our board in the top 32. We also have, Denzel Boston is on the board. Avian Terrell from Clemson, the cornerback, Caden McDonald from Ohio State, Zion Young and Cassius Howell, the pass rushers, Colton Hood from Tennessee, and your guy, Eli Stowers, who you mentioned, I think will also be coming off the board very early here on day 2. Nobody, though, Russ, that I'm seeing that anyone is going to really want to trade up and move up or jump up. Maybe a Caden McDonald, considered maybe the best run stuffing talent in the draft, but I'm not sure anybody really makes a significant move up to jump and grab one of these guys, or do they?
Well, I think McCoy is the guy that some team that was late in the first and traded out might be willing to go up and get.
Right.
Just because he's long, he's athletic, he's talented. You might be willing to risk a second-round pick, go up and get him. I'll say 2 guys to me that were surprising. Not that they're didn't get taken in the first round, but just I'm saying that you didn't mention that I think are 2 of the top guys still on the board: Pregnon from Oregon and Dunker from Iowa. To me, these are 2 guys. They may never be stars, but I think these are long-time starting offensive linemen in the NFL. Solid, tough, workman-like guys that play 8 or 10 years, never make a Pro Bowl, but start for 6 or 7 years. I like both those guys. I think they'll both be gone within the first 15 picks of the second round.
Good call. Yeah, I like that. D'Angelo Pons from Indiana, another guy that should come off the board early. Traydon Stukes from Arizona.
Pons just has the one thing. The reality is, and I hate to say it, but NFL teams do not like corners. They don't like anybody, but corners especially, that you can eat peanuts off their head. That's just the reality of it. They don't like short corners. They get abused, and we can all remember one of the best corners in the last decade to come into the NFL in terms of pure talent was Jason Verrett. The kid was a freak of nature.
Yeah,
he was a great talent in the NFL when he was healthy, but he was not healthy because he was little and he broke. And that's one of the things that analytics has shown is that little defenders often break because they just get crushed. So I think that played a role in this. I also wanted to point out one other thing that we've been talking is it's interesting that Fano went first of the offensive tackles, despite all the concerns about arm length. And part of the reason that happened, and if you look at it, I think we all know that the Jaguars, the Browns, the Eagles are probably the 3 most analytically driven teams in the NFL. And the data has shown that while arm length matters for pass rushers, it is not nearly as important for offensive tackles. And I think the Browns just proved their point by saying we got an elite tackle regardless of arm length, because arm length is not a do or die thing for a tackle.
That's right. You can't forget about talk about players that are left. Eli Stowers,
Yep, for sure.
Another tight end who I felt, will probably go in the second or day 2 anyway. I'm also looking for. I don't know if you guys mentioned Jacob Slaughter.
Yeah.
A really good athletic center. Who I feel could really fit in anybody's offense.
I think there's so much value on the offensive line. Russ mentioned Pregnon and Dunker. Also, Chase Besantis from Texas A&M, a Jersey guy. I think you can find some starting caliber offensive linemen here on day 2, which is surprising considering how many went. But you're going to probably have to focus on the interior. Dunker played some tackle, probably projects there at guard, and then wide receiver talent too. We mentioned Denzel Boston, Zachariah Branch. We'll see how much of his recent off the field mishap hurts him. Chris Brazel from Tennessee, Jeremy Bernard from Alabama still sitting out there. So wide receiver now, a possession or a depth position here on day 2 as well, as are the linebackers. You talk about Jake Galladay, CJ Allen, Jacob Rodriguez, Anthony Hill Jr. I mean, there are some Kyle Lewis. There are some good-looking linebackers.
Yeah.
Yep, there's no question. Like we talked about, there was a big fall off from 10 to 15 in terms of talent after the initial group. I think when we get into that mid-second to the mid-4th, there's really good depth in this draft. There may not be as much elite talent, but those mid-round, mid-second to mid-4th, there's some really good players that are going to play in the league a while.
And some teams pumping the brakes on the edge rushers, Zion Young from Missouri, Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, even Gabe Jackus from Illinois is sitting out there. TJ Parker from Clemson is a little bit surprising to me. So the team's not valuing some of these edge rushers. Derek Moore from Michigan, too, still on the board. So some interesting pass rush prospects there as well.
No doubt. There's some guys there. And I mean, usually teams reach for those guys, which is somewhat of a surprise that 1 or 2 more didn't get reached for, because that's what teams always do is they reach for pass rushers. They reach for quarterbacks. So I was a little surprised late in the first round that a few of these pass rushers didn't go. Not that they're more talented, but teams tend to reach for pass rushers more than almost any other position.
Russ, you mentioned you love the selection of Ty Simpson. I think it's a home run fit with Sean McVay there. Who do you think could be the next signal caller here off the board, and will we see one on day 2?
Well, I think we'll see one. I'd be surprised if both Beck and Alar and Nussmeier, if all 3 don't go by the end of round 3. I spoke to a few people this week that said, hey, if you took 2024 and 2025 and graded Alar as a separate player, your 2025 Drew Alar might be a guy that's a late round consideration. Your 2024 would be a first round quarterback. So somebody's going to see that 2024 and say, can we make him that guy again? So somebody, and I think coaches in particular, will fall in love and believe they can fix him. So I do think he's going to go on day 2. I think Carson Beck, it's a mystery. He's so uber talented in terms of just pure physical talent. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I really don't think he's ever going to be that guy. But I think some coach who has watched the film, who has worked him out and seen him physically, is going to fall in love with the what could be, just like all the schools did when he came out of high school. And I think he will go on day 2 to a coach who thinks he might be able to fix him.
Yeah, I really like a Garrett Nussmeier, like at the top of round 3, pick number 65 to the Arizona Cardinals. I think could be, I don't know if we see one in the second round, but I think 3rd round for sure. And I see here we've got a new top of the board for day 2 as well. The San Francisco 49ers have now the first pick on day 2. They will select 33rd overall, followed by the Cardinals at 34. The Buffalo Bills will pick 35. Now you have your Raiders at 36, and then your New York Football Giants with their 3rd pick at 37. So we didn't get your thoughts, Russ, on Francis Malago and
And Reese.
and Reese for the
Giants. I like it. I mean, Mauigoa, I think we talked about it. They had to get an offensive lineman, at least one. I'd be surprised if they don't take another one tomorrow in the second or third round, because they have to find a way to keep Jackson Dart upright. And I think Reese, I think it came down to they wanted an explosive playmaker on defense. This kid gives that to him. How they're going to use him, I'm not exactly sure. That, to me, is the big debate on that defense, is where is he going to fit? Is he just going to be a will-type linebacker who you let run around like Derek Brooks and be an impact guy from off the ball? Or do they send him after the quarterback more? But I love the Mauigoa pick. I think they're going to add another old lineman. I'd be shocked if they don't do it on day 2 to make sure they keep Jackson Dart upright and give him a chance to be the quarterback a lot of people in the NFL feel he can become.
Yeah, I know they don't have a third-round selection, so it'll be very interesting with the Giants. So it'll be interesting what the 49ers do, as this will essentially be their first selection of the 2026 NFL Draft. And they need an offensive lineman. I think they're going to be out of luck when it comes to that. They also need a pass rusher. So one of these guys, such as the TJ Parker that we alluded to, could be a candidate for the first pick on day 2. I guess we'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out. It does kick off, 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So we'll start an hour early. We'll be live for the full 2-day coverage on Friday night, and then back at it again Saturday afternoon for the duration, the marathon, day 3, my favorite day of the draft. And we'll have a lot of people coming and going throughout the program and the show. And I guess it's time for parting shots, fellas, if you guys want to go around the room, and we'll put a ribbon on the show.
Well, the only thing I'll say, I mean, I've talked about the people I loved and what they did and didn't do. As a long time, and I'll always call them San Diego Charger fan, I'm very excited that if they're going to roll the dice and they're going to go get a pass rusher, go get a Canadian pass rusher, go get Mesidor. I'm excited. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'll say one thing. You're getting a high-character kid, because those Canadian kids just seem to be made of something different. I'm excited to see what he can do. Hopefully, he can keep that Chargers defense as one of the top 5 or 6 in the league and give them a chance this coming year. But I really hope they also go get some offensive linemen on day 2.
I can say that 16 out of 32 draft picks were traded today. And that means that everybody's draft board was wide open. And they had a lot of different players that a lot of these teams saw as possibilities for them. And for me, I feel like this has been one of the wildest drafts that I've ever seen. And, for Sonny Styles, that's somebody that, that I really was figuring, wanting to know where he went. Going to Washington as a replacement for Bobby Wagner. And, he's going to get the green dot, it seems. I'm really interested to see what they do with him on that defense with a new coordinator. And, this is what we're here for. The excitement of the draft. A lot of players we thought were going different places really didn't go. And, we'll just keep the fire burning. Let's go.
Yeah, I think for me, I have a love-hate relationship with the Dallas Cowboys right now, because I love the selection of Caleb Downs. I thought they got the best value, who I thought was the top overall player in this year's draft, to get him at number 11, even though they had to give up a couple picks to move up one spot. I'm okay with that. I hate the selection of Malachi Lawrence. I just felt like, I understand the upside, but there was just so much more available talent on the board where Dallas could have really got right and got quickly right. Mm-hmm. And Lawrence is more of a developmental guy. Again, I said it when they selected him. I don't see him playing more than 20-25 snaps as a situational pass rusher initially. Does he grow into something more? We shall see. But I will say, what a fantastic program that we had here for you tonight. I mean, I can't thank you guys enough for hopping on board, and Russ each and every week leading up to the show. Big Law holding it down. We had tremendous guests with Howard Balzer celebrating 50 years of covering the NFL. Our guy, Brian Baldinger, dropped by to give some insight. So if you're just tuned in, I saw our viewership just spiked here late in the show. You can go back, get all of our instant analysis recaps from Russ, from Balzer, from Baldy, from Big Law, myself, and we'll be back here live streaming and broadcasting again tomorrow. So that about does it for today's program. Go ahead, Big Law.
Hey guys, make sure you check us out, All Access. Go to the website. Make sure you get your draft Bible. Like I said, lighten the lamp. All right, go get this draft Bible. You will never go wrong. You'll be the smartest man or woman in the room. But for that, we got to thank all of you, viewers and listeners, for hanging out with us. All of our folks in the chat. We love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. We got 2 more days of this. Just be cool, hang out. Let's learn a little bit and buckle up. This has been the NFL Draft Bible 2026. First round. Come back for the rest. Thank you, guys. Love you. Bye-bye.